welcome to Deep End Live. It is day 4 and the final day of the British Diving Championships here at Ponds Forge in Sheffield. My name is Kirsty Schultz and I'll be taking you through all of the action here today, and we'll be joined by some of our lovely athletes here in the studio. Now let's just take a quick look at our leaderboard up here, because we've got our Truth or Lie challenge, which we're going to be doing later on, and we've also got our Best of British up there for 2023 as well, and we'll be adding to that later on today as well during some of our finals coming up. Now also don't forget, we want to hear from you on social media, so send those messages in using hashtag BDC2023 and hashtag DeepEndLive. Now there have been some really impressive diving going on here during this British Diving Championships, so let's just take a quick look at some of the highlights.
So Jack and Yona back in here to talk you through some of the best dives of the weekend.
Yeah, and we got some 3-metre synchro here from James Ross, an event I was in yesterday. Andrea on the platform. Touch over there from Andrea, but
this was a big one from Jordan, wasn't it?
Yeah, look at the height, it's so high, it's incredible.
I thought it was actually going to be the triple out. It was the double out.
Yeah, this is a huge dive to finish there. I was watching this one from the pool side, and yeah, that was phenomenal. What a huge finish for those boys to get a decent score.
91 points on that one for the boys yesterday.
Absolutely.
Quick fire here, highlights here for you, so we'll probably not try and talk through every one of them, but just to give you an idea of some of the quality dives.
I tell you what, Ross has done some great work on 1 metre. His front takeoffs on front and full out, amazing.
That was
so
a triple
high
out from Jordan. That
that was what you were hoping for before. Yeah, and his inward takeoffs as well. Like so much time to finish off the dive.
Full practice now, 1 metre bar the back 2.5, which 3.2 on the back 2.5, so almost not worth it.
Not worth it at all. No, that dive is too hard, way too hard.
This was beautiful from Andrea.
Yeah, she's quality, isn't she? She's been absolutely smashing it.
Yasmin and Scarlett, we're about to see them in the individual final.
That's what I was talking about. How much height he's got. It's insane.
Yeah.
And Andrea's performance yesterday, maybe a little bit down on what she would have wanted, but she's had a busy period of time, exams, a lot of revision to do, but she's doing well.
Cost of living crunch. Labara are here to help.
All I want is great customer service and network, but for less.
That's why Labara gives you 15 gigabytes of 5G data and unlimited UK minutes and text for just £10 a month. Plus, no contract, change or cancel anytime.
An excellent customer service.
So what's stopping you joining the bill-busting revolution? Labara, more for less.
Well, there we have it, some fantastic performances so far. Now, joining me here in the studio is former Olympic medalist Leon Taylor, everyone. Leon, thank you so much for joining us here in the studio.
Pleasure. It's nice to be back on the poolside, but fully dressed. So a bit safer talking about it than actually doing it myself. It's nice to be back at my home pool.
Now, of course, we just saw some of the highlights from this British Diving Championships. Some fantastic performances so far. It just shows the level that we have here in British diving.
Yeah, it's really exciting for me. So I get to commentate on the international events. So I always know who's at the top and, you know, who's competing at the next major championships. But what I'm missing out on, because I'm not here on the poolside every day, is what's behind that. And what you've just spoken to there is the depth of talent and potential that we have across both men's and women's events. It's been really exciting to see that watch it unfold with my own eyes over the weekend here at Ponds Forge.
And of course, yesterday we finished with the men's synchro final. Ross Haslam and James Heatley, incredible performance from those two. Did you catch any of that action yesterday?
I did. I saw that before heading out for a really nice dinner. What's been really nice for me is to see the results coming in and looking at the athletes. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on the athletes here to perform as individuals. The synchro events aren't being focused on because you're being selected on your individual results. So what you're seeing is a lot more jostling for those spots at the European Games and the World Championships. Championships, and of course the last 2 remaining events are going to be highly contested. The women's 3-metre, I was just looking down at the results, there's 8 athletes there who are vying for those top 4 spots, and the same in the men's. There's probably 6 athletes in the men's 10-metre vying for those 4 spots, so it becomes the mindset battle. Who can remain composed during this afternoon?
And you've spoken a lot about mindset in diving. I mean, you've looked a lot in sports psychology as well. Just talk about how important that actually is when it gets to getting on that board.
Yeah, certainly. Well, diving is in some ways a very cruel sport, and anyone who's done it will know that it's a really cruel sport. And by that, I mean you get 1 shot at each of your dives. So unlike a long jump or a javelin where you get, you know, a few goes and you take your best performance, each dive counts, and it's that cumulative score. So arguably 1 mistake and you could be out of the running. So therefore each dive, there's an immense amount of expectation and pressure that comes from the crowd, your coaches, the training you've done. Divers are training 5, 6, 7 hours a day. So it's a huge amount of effort that comes into that moment in time. And it's who can remain cool, calm and collected, who can enjoy that intensity rather than being worried about making a mistake. As soon as you start to worry or you think about making mistakes, that's when that vicious cycle can swallow you up. So I'm really excited today because for me it's a fascination. I'm going to watch the athletes, you know, who can stand the pressure, who can take part in the arena, right? It feels like a gladiatorial arena when the pressure's on.
Of course. And you touch base, we've got obviously the World Championships coming up in July in Japan, there's the European Games, so there is a lot to focus on. It is a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and that's what makes sports so exciting, right? So we're going in, whatever the female athletes did this morning in the prelims, whatever the male athletes did at lunchtime, doesn't matter now, because if you qualified, nothing counts. You're coming in, you're diving in reverse order, every single dive counts. And so for me here live, watching it, for everyone watching the live streaming, like, don't take your eyes off it, because this is pure competition, magic, and it's such an exciting sport. The commentary team are great as well. Who's up there? So Yona and Jack are up there. They're going to bring it alive. It'll be fun next couple of hours.
Now, of course, you won a silver at the Athens Olympics, so you know firsthand what it's like, that cycle building up to the Olympic Games. Obviously, we've got the Olympic Games in Paris next year. Just talk us about that cycle and how the athletes focus in that build-up. Yeah,
so this is crucial now. So as we move into the back end of the cycle, and of course this cycle's been squeezed with pandemic shifting the Tokyo Olympic Games, so it feels like only a short time ago that we had the Olympic Games, which of course in some ways we did. But qualification spots open this year. There's one at the European Games, there's several at the World Championships, so it becomes very important for all countries, in the diving world to qualify those spots for the country. So, there's this element of making it count now, securing those spots ahead of Paris, because you've got to be in it to challenge for those results.
And of course, we've got the women's 3-metre final coming in now. There's a lot of potential in this final. And of course, a lot of the women that are going to be competing have just been in the World Cup as well. Yeah, that's right. So the great thing is there's been plenty going on this season. So there's been some wonderful results. I'm not going to highlight any now, because what I'm most focused on is here now, whatever you've done so far. And as I mentioned already, I'm glancing down at that start list. It's all to play for. This one's going to be, a battle of some seriously good athletes. So I'm really excited. And who do you think will take the top 3? Because, I mean, you've got like Yasmin Harper, Scarlett Mew-Jensen. I mean, there's just so many. Listen, I'm an accomplished pundit. There's no way I'm going to be drawn in on predicting that. So it's almost like the crystal ball isn't going to tell me what it is. So for me, there's Yasmin. She's in a home pool. She's already won a gold here. Maybe it's her day, or maybe the pressure gets to her. So this is going to be the beauty of it. Well, Leon, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much. The women will be joining us shortly. So the women's 3-metre final is about to get underway very soon. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.
So, thank you very much there from Kirsty and Leon down in our mini studio. Leon mentioned me and Yona bringing the commentary alive. I don't think it's much to do with us, really, though, is it? It's the diving that's going to bring the excitement today. We'll do our best to hopefully keep you entertained as well, but the diving is the bit that's going to be keeping you most entertained. There's the women's 3-metre final and the men's 10-metre final upcoming in today's last session. So, Yona, what are you expecting? Who are your ones to look out for? Obviously, we'll start with the women's 3-metre.
Yeah, I mean, what you said, it's all about the divers. The divers will help us make good commentary, hopefully. In the women's 3-metre, I'm looking out for Scarlett, who dived incredibly well this morning, and she will be going last in the final, as she was a top qualifier. Grace, also looking fantastic this morning, but Yasmin, Catherine, they'll have something to say about that. And definitely watch out for the guest divers as well, Emilia and Claire from Sweden and Ireland, respectively, although Claire's diving in her home pool. It will be, yeah, I think it's going to be a really exciting final.
Awesome. So, as you can see, our divers out parading. We start with start number 1, Nina Janmir from Sweden. Start number 2, Holly Mae Pasanto from City of Sheffield. Start number 3, Evie Smith from Dive London. Start number 4, Emily Underwood from Plymouth Diving Club. Start number 5, Deshawn Bent Ashmeal. 6, Amy Rollinson. 7, Catherine Torrance. 8, Yasmin Harper. 9, Claire Cryan, just about caught up. Start number 10, Amelia Nilsson Garrett. Start number 11, our second highest qualifier from prelim, Grace Reed. And our top qualifier this morning, Scarlett New-Jensen, also from Dive London. Great score this morning from Scarlett. She got a personal best as well. You mentioned that this morning, 321 points.
Awesome.
We'll just take a minute to respect the national anthem. So parade done. Now time for action for the girls. Me and Yona just speaking off air previously. Deshawn Bent Ashmeal started off her prelim with a forward 2.5 somersaults pike instead of her usual forward 3.5 somersaults pike. She has suffered a bad shoulder injury recently. She dislocated her shoulder whilst out in Xi'an for the World Cup. So that was the dive that caused her the problem initially. She chose to go with the easier option this morning, but now she's in the final. She's up in the ante. That's something that you tend to try and do in prelims to finals, Yona. You sometimes go with slightly easier dives in the prelim, and then in the final you really go all or nothing with the hard, bigger degree of difficulty dives sometimes.
Yeah, it's something I've done before, especially with the forward 4.5 somersaults tucked. And for me, particularly at international world level, the tactic was go with a set of dives that I'm comfortable with and do my best on those dives, try and get myself through to the semi-final or to the final. And then once I'm in those, last stages of the event, add in the harder dive, take a bit more of a risk, and hopefully reap a little bit more of a reward. And did that at the Commonwealth Games. I did that all throughout last season, up until my injury, actually. Whether I'll continue doing that, I'm not too sure, especially with the forward 4.5, but I do hope to get some of my more difficult dives back. But for Deshawn, it's hopefully going to be great for her to get that forward 3.5 pike back in. She is putting it in the second round, so she's now opening with a forward 2.5 somersaults with one twist.
Changing the list order a bit as well.
Slightly changing the order, yeah, which is absolutely right, because she probably wouldn't want to open on a front 3.5 pike. That's quite a difficult dive to open on. But it'll be great for her just to get back to actually doing and competing that dive again so soon after an injury.
Yeah, her and Scarlett New-Jensen both didn't do the individual 1 metre events, so that can potentially have an advantage. Obviously, they do have a day break in between the 1 metre, which was on Friday, and today's event. So a little bit of time to recover for the girls, whereas the boys, yourself, you again chose not to do the 1 metre, but we saw the likes of James, Jordan and Ross yesterday with a busy schedule following the 3 metre on the day before. So that extra little bit of rest on the Friday could potentially come into play this afternoon. You know, they're not going to hopefully run out of steam.
Yeah, it's more about actually the mental rest, I think. The physical rest is great, yeah, it's good to rest the body, but that's why we train so much. We train to build up that resilience to get through days and days and days of competition. So physically, whilst, yeah, you have some sore bits, your body knows what it's doing, so it's still able to execute the dives well. However, it's the mental rest that could come in really handy, because competing is hard. It's really challenging to stay focused and stay switched on for an entire event on multiple days on the bounce. So for those that didn't do 1 metre yesterday, for example, they would just been able to relax, take a day off, chill out, not think about diving maybe, and bring their focus into this day of 3 metre diving.
We're now ready to kick off the events. The judges are in place. Our first diver, Nina Janmia, is on the board. She snuck in to the top 12 positions, pipping Tilly Brown by just 5 points. She starts off with an inward 2.5 somersaults tuck.
There you go. We spoke about her accuracy earlier on, and that's a great example. Improved execution from this morning's prelim, and so that's a really good, solid start to the event.
Yeah, Jack and I were impressed by her quality on the 1 metre. She just has a bit of a knack to find her way out of the dives and find that upright position, which she's shown there. Holly May Prasanto this morning did this dive not to the standard that she would usually expect, piked out very early. Did have a great recovery towards the back end of a list, but 2.5 this time out, much better.
No pike out that time. No pike out whatsoever. Great improvement there from Holly.
Yeah, the takeoff not necessarily as good balance as the one this morning, but much better awareness on the way out of that dive.
Well, she's brought a 23-point improvement straight away there, so that puts her list up to a much better start, and hopefully she can carry that energy through for the rest of the event.
Yeah, she's already got 1 silver this weekend on the 1 metre board, so very successful start to her competition. Hoping to follow it up with another good performance in the 3 metre. Next up, Evie with a back 2.5 somersaults pike.
That was a much better effort on the takeoff actually from this morning. She really drove into the board, pressed through, and actually went up into the start much more than she did this morning. There's still that little bit of a leg crimp on the way out that I saw, and she's really got to focus on trying to maintain the focus. You can see that as she releases, she doesn't need to throw her shoulders back like that, just maintain the smooth movement, look at the toes, then reach the arms back calmly whilst keeping the body still, and that will result in a much better entry.
Now Amelie, quite deceiving, only Group B, still competing in the junior ranks.
Yeah, I was surprised by the fact that she's a Group B because she looks so strong for her age, and that's a great example. That's a really easy back 2.5 tuck, well executed.
Yeah, you mentioned this morning about the drills that the divers do in the dry land and coming out through that confident dish position. Amelie shows it really well here. You can see the hands on the legs as she comes out. Gives her time to line up that finish and get a good rip entry as she does.
It's only a fraction of a second, but it just creates that tension that you need in your body to get a good entry.
We've already spoken about Deshawn switching up the order of her list slightly and changing the difficulty on her forward rotation. She starts with a 4 2.5 somersaults 1 twist. Good start again from her. Steady scores, 63 points.
Yeah, much better than her effort this morning. A 14-point improvement on her full out, which, as we said, she used in round 2. This time she's opening it, and it looks like a really comfortable and confident opener, so it's a great start to her competition.
Now, Amy, 5th in the prelim. Could be a little bit of a dark horse, potentially, not maybe the start that she would want. She's a little bit early out on that pike shape, which is similar to what we saw this morning.
Well, we definitely know that Amy can compete. I mean, Commonwealth medalist on the 1 metre springboard, so if she knows how to compete, she can get through it. If she can transfer that attitude up to 3 metre this afternoon, then she could definitely have an impact on the medal podium later on.
Yeah, of course, there's places up for grabs at the World Championships and the European Games, so those top 4 positions are really important for our divers. One of the divers in question is Catherine Torrens.
Unfortunately, just dropped a little bit short there on that entry. Her hurdle just moved backwards away from the end of the board a touch, which makes that dive just a little bit harder for her. But she did well to work it around. Solid score, 57 points to start off her final effort.
Now, big shouts here for Yasmin Harper, of course, in her home pool. Should be very used to these springboards, but like Leon mentioned before, can also add a little bit of pressure.
Absolutely. It's all about focus and just continuing the same repetitions, whether you're in your home pool or somewhere else.
No pressure there. Excellent dive from Yasmin.
One thing I love about Yasmin's diving is when she gets her hands, she really holds the water down, and it makes a great sound, a really strong rip sound, and that was a great example of the dive there. Maybe fell forward a little bit too far away from the board. I think she could have driven that up a touch more, but it's a great effort to save that on the end, and, well, same start as this morning, 67.5.
Yeah, consistency is so important, especially in the female event where the degrees of difficulty don't change quite as much as you may see in some of the male events. So every point counts, even more so.
Oh, great handle from Claire.
Even the step down there, you were like, that's nice, that's nice.
She just looked confident and in control 100%, and that's going to be reflected in the scores there. 8s across the board to count.
Yeah, I think that deserves every bit of those 8s there. So high up in the air, like a required dive. Finishes above the board. Nice tee out, and then great finish by Claire too.
And as we spoke earlier, she's been doing this dive on 1 metre, so the fact that she can make it on 1 metre must make it feel 10 times easier when she moves up to 3 metre.
Someone else that was very impressive on 1 metre was Amelia, doing the reverse 2.5 and in 2.5 somersaults in the tuck position on 1 metre. Starts off with a back 2.5 somersaults pike. I really like her diving. It's so sharp.
She has really beautiful lines, really sharp movements, as you say, quality shapes. That actually just dropped a tiny little bit short, just a fraction. It could have just reached back through the water, a little bit more bum squeeze through the water, just to get that line a little bit more. But that's a great dive.
Now, someone that has won this event many times in the past, very experienced diver, Grace Reed. Her first dive forward, 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist. That's going to be up there with Claire's scores.
Hey, if this first round is anything to go by, we've got an exciting competition on our hands, because these girls have really turned up this afternoon.
Thanks, judges. You've just made me look pretty good. Exactly the same as Claire's scores. 72 points there from Grace.
Could be seeing some huge scores if this continues, but we've still got 4 rounds of diving to go once Scarlett has done her dive, and as we all know with diving, lots can happen in that time.
Yeah, Scarlett with a great prelim this morning. Interesting, I was speaking to her. Her 2 PBs before that were both done in prelims. So
No way.
3:15 before this morning, 3:21 now. Good start from her, in 2.5 somersaults piked.
Well, we were talking about that earlier. It's not one in the prelim, so yeah, it's great to have a good prelim performance. It can really build that confidence going into a final, but you have to be able to replicate it and build upon it. That's one thing that I've been really trying to work on. Now, Scarlett started here with a slightly lower score on her first dive, but it's still good quality. Still keeps her in the mix, that's for sure.
So that's the end of our first round. Back to the start of our start list. Nina, this time out with a forward 3.5 somersaults pike, so she's up in her DD quite significantly, 0.4. Similar to this morning in terms of accuracy, just looked a little bit more hesitant. I think she was a little bit higher finishing than the forward 3.5 that we saw in the prelim, but just didn't quite look as sure on the come out there.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think her hurdle was not quite the right timing that she was hoping for. Maybe didn't quite give her the ping and the height, the elevation that she needed to make that dive. So it just makes it a little bit tougher, but the experience shows that she can wait and still land on her head and get a good quality dive, some decent scores.
Much better first round dive from Holly. Follows it up with a forward 3.5 somersaults tuck. Very accurate again there from Holly.
Yeah, she finished super, super high. That one maybe could have called for a pike out, but actually this morning maybe not necessary. But great timing on the come out, good sequence, good accuracy. Maybe a touch rolled over on the end, but you can see the height that she gains. A little bit high on her knees in the tuck shape, do you think?
Yeah, I think I'd agree, but like you said, very accurate. I think I would also say that that's going to go pike very soon as well. She spins very well in a pike position, so I'm sure we'll be seeing her using that in competition in no time. Evie's going to follow up doing exactly the same dive, so you get to compare like for like.
Wow, well done. That is not a hurdle that you want.
Great composure there from Evie. Sometimes when you're back on the end of the board, you can overcorrect, you can try and rush into your dive. She has confidence in her strength to maintain all the correct positions, and she's rewarded there by good scores, 6s and 6.5s to count from the judges.
And that's one thing you can work on in training. You know, when you're training and you're doing hurdles, trying to take off from any position, anywhere on the board, because it teaches you how to cope with it and how to deal with it, how to respond, so that when you get to competition, because more often than not, you actually get a bad hurdle in competition, you've got to know how to deal with it, and Evie's shown a really good example of that there. Ooh.
Emily with a reverse 2.5 somersaults. Look very steep on the takeoff. She's got good direction out of that board. I would say that the balance is fine. I don't think it was too close to the board.
I'd agree, the balance is perfectly fine on that takeoff, but so high. Group B. like, honestly,
you can't get over that one, can you?
Okay. So much time, great sequence on the come out. Yeah, she's got a bright future ahead of her if she keeps working hard. Although it's always a challenge to progress to the pike list. I was just using a full tuck list at the moment, but you know, she's definitely got all the right foundations to do so. And here is the dive from Deshawn that we were speaking about, the dive that injured her shoulder early in here, and she's put it into the final, and she's done a great job of it there.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be higher total score than the forward 2.5 somersaults pike. Quite a significant jump up in degree of difficulty. She still makes it very easy though. She's very strong, Deshawn.
Yeah.
Does all these dives very comfortably. So it's just about getting out of them for her. Similar to her teammate, Amy, on the diver that makes all these pikeless dives very well. Oh, another great recovery from a bad hurdle step. You may have noticed when she stepped down, you may have seen the replay, looked like she was a little bit on the side of the board.
Well, it was actually quite mistimed on the single leg, and that made me lean back a little bit, and then she actually found really good timing on the double leg. So, yeah, it was a confusing one, but she managed to get such good height and great accuracy in the end. Just left it a little bit short, maybe due to the missed time. Couldn't quite get the right start. Now, I was speaking earlier about noticing a change in arm position in Catherine on her standing takeoffs, and I managed to speak to her just before, just after the prelim, and she's actually decided to start with her arms in a T shape rather than by her side. But you can actually see in her fingers, she has them slightly crimped, so her hands were shaking if she was too tense. But she wants that to make sure that her body doesn't move as much when she lifts her arms up to her ears, and then she can hold a little bit more control for that particular dive. And she's come through well.
Yeah, big improvement
in the score.
This morning.
Yeah, 15-point improvement there, which is really good. So great work on that dive from Catherine. Should be pretty happy with that, I think.
I think she's shown great signs on that dive. It was one that she's probably found the hardest to make in her list, and she's making it much more comfortably now.
Yeah, as we spoke, the Imatunar pike is a very tough dive because you got to get the distance, but also you want to stay in balance so you can get the rotation. It's a very fine line that you're playing with.
Especially when you've got long legs like Catherine too.
Exactly.
Now Yasmin Harper. Back 2.5 somersaults piked. Oh, nice. Nice dive from Yasmin.
My ooh was because I thought that was going to be really good. What was your ooh about?
I thought it was nice.
I thought that was just going to drop him really nicely on the head. Just pulled that slight bit over.
Yeah, I like the action. She's so sharp into that pike shape.
Yeah.
She's very strong in her core. Gets quite a lot of extension on that takeoff, but is able to wrap round into a nice tight pike shape. Claire, our joint leader after the first round with Grace. Does a bit of a mix on her list of tuck and pike dives. Back and reverse and inward in the tuck position. Beautiful
yes,
entry.
Wow. Awesome. We were speaking about Claire's awareness earlier, saying that it's a little bit stronger maybe on her front and inward spinning skills. That's definitely not the case. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I said
Great
this
start.
morning that her back and reverse entries are amazing when they're right, and she's definitely proved me right there. She kicks out, and look at that, just disappears through the water.
Spot on. And with a slightly lower degree of difficulty dive, she needed those bigger scores to stay in the mix. Absolutely got them. Great work, Claire.
Oh, again from Amelia. Great top, great shape, just slightly missing the ends.
I'm so jealous of her pike shape. That's incredible.
Your pike shape probably doesn't spin quite as fast as that, maybe. I don't think that's fair to say.
Not quite, not quite. It's definitely not as tight as that. Look at that. No space in there whatsoever. Just a little bit chesty on the end. Got to go through that arm sequence without moving the body on the water. And she could have held that down a little bit more, but it's a great dive. Good second round.
Grace, as I've mentioned, joint leader with Claire, doing the same dive but in the pike position. I feel like Grace has done some really good work on her takeoffs of making sure she brings her legs up straight out of that dive now.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. It looks a lot more in control on the takeoff and in much better form. Still just missing that end a little bit with the lean. Sometimes makes it a little bit hard to control that end, but she did a good job whilst pulling it slightly over there.
Now Scarlett, 61.5 points on her first round dive compared to 66 this morning. Reverse 2.5 was pretty steady this morning as well.
Oh. Man, such a shame. There's that step back hurdle. She had that slightly this morning, if I remember correctly, but did a really good job of waiting for the board. This time, a little bit more snatched, and then just the wrong placement on the way out, which is really tough for her. She did a great job to make it that far around. She just needs to place those feet a little bit higher.
Yeah, massive shame for her there. 321 points that she got this morning is going to be a very big ask now. So into the third round. Nina kicking off with a back 2.5 somersaults piked.
Oh, much better effort than this morning. This morning she was only able to get 25 points in this dive because she didn't quite get the right placement of her feet. This start, I don't think, was much different to earlier, but she was much more patient, placed the feet towards the board, got those hands back for the water.
Yeah, similar to her teammate, she's got a very good pike shape, gets her arms wrapped round behind her knees, legs straight and chest flat on her legs, so gives herself every chance to get the rotation speed that she needs. Holly Mae Presanto, her hardest dive in her list, 3.0. Oh, similar to this morning. I think a little bit toes over and just over pumped it a little bit.
Sometimes with the toes over on a forward takeoff, it's actually what you need. It gives you that little bit of extra speed, but you have to be ready for that. And unfortunately, that time Holly just wasn't quite ready. Tony there just telling her to calm down a little bit.
Yeah, maybe just slightly late out of the flick. Could have flicked out of the somersault at about 1.5 rotations into the straight line, and then she'd have a little bit more time to have a look at the water.
Yeah, she did a really good job of actually getting her hips up on the takeoff, even though she was leaning slightly forward, but that's maybe what threw her off slightly.
Evie with another one of her pike dives in the list, number 2.5 somersault spiked. Still obviously a junior as well. Came second at the Junior Elites. Represented Team GB at Dresden Youth International recently too.
Absolutely, just runs out of room a little bit on that dive there, so just needs to work on her takeoff, the direction of the throw, trying to go up and over the board a little bit more. That'll give her a chance of being able to line up on the end.
Amelie with her same dive but in the tuck position, so you do lose 0.3 on the degree of difficulty on this one.
Yeah, you know what, I'm really impressed with Emily actually. I've not seen much of her diving. Obviously now I'm so old and don't see the junior events. But I'm really impressed because that takeoff looked like it was a little bit further pushed back, but she adjusted really well. You see that slight wobble in her body, but she adjusted. She knows where the water is. She knew where to stretch towards. Could have been a slightly better entry, but can't complain when you come away with 6.5 on that dive at the moment.
Yeah, you mentioned the junior meets. She, again, was another that represented Team GB at Dresden recently and got a silver medal in this event at the junior elites. Deshawn has now stepped out of the junior meet. She is a senior now, 18 plus. He's doing back 2.5 somersaults pike there. Just like I mentioned before, makes the dive so easily. It's the challenge for her is knowing when to come out and get that upright finish. Just a little bit pulled on the entry.
You can see on the takeoff, she actually moved her shoulders a little bit too soon, and then it was replicated on the end. Just a little bit too much shoulder movement that pulled it over, unfortunately for Deshawn. So a little bit down on the points there. As we move to Amy and her reverse 2.5 pike. Much better hurdle than she got this morning. Actually almost too good, because she got a great start, went right up, good balance. A little bit late on the press out, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost a matter of time until Amy is going to really put a list together and get some big scores. All the fundamentals and the techniques and the strength is there to get huge scores on these dives. It's just a matter of putting them all together in one list.
Absolutely. And when you're a powerful diver, as we spoke about Kyle this morning, when you're a powerful diver, when you can jump high, when you can make the dives easily, it's actually sometimes harder because you have to control it. And controlling it is a really difficult thing. It takes a long time to train, a long time to practice.
Catherine with a forward 3.5 somersaults pike, just letting her down a little bit. Again, she was a bit back on the board, but her timing was still very good, as we've probably alluded to multiple times. You mentioned her 99 time bounce this morning.
Perfect bounces. But at that time, she just got slightly soft kneed and didn't quite catch the rhythm of the board. But she still had time.
She just tried to overcorrect it a little bit and rolled in on the entry.
It's a tough dive when you don't feel like you have time. You feel like you just need to throw your arms out and almost bury your head to get to the water. But you know, it's really hard to actually try and go through the same sequence when you feel like you're running out of room. But you just got to brush it off and move on to the next one, because there's still opportunities, there's still dives that need to be done in this event, so she'll move on from that.
Oh, Yasmin with a mistake as well.
Exactly my point. You know, Catherine's just made a mistake on that dive. You'd probably expect Yasmin to walk up and absolutely nail this dive, but unfortunately, similarly to Catherine, but for a slightly different reason, you know, Yasmin got a really good start on this takeoff. This is where her lean forward sometimes comes into be a bit of a hindrance, because you can't control the out when you get the height and the lean. As we saw there, it's just flying over past vertical. It's unfortunate for Yasmin.
Claire diving really well so far. Leader after 2 rounds. 10 points in front of Grace Reed in third too. She's doing the same dive, 3rd in a row. She's on fire today, Claire.
She's on it. And
Great
she had
to see.
the slight lean forward there, the miss time, but she was able to work through that, and front and inward awareness, found the end, no problem. Well done, Claire.
Yeah, I'm normally pretty confident with Claire if she gets the right takeoffs on front and inward, especially this dive. As long as she gets that hurdle step, I'm generally quite confident she'll find the end, as she does there. Amelia, reverse 2.5 somersaults pike. Oh, I like that a lot.
I love her takeoff position. I want to point that in the replay when we get it, because she just waits. It looks like she's just waiting on the board for so long in a straight position before she snaps into that pike shape.
Yeah, really, really impressive.
There we go. See that full extension.
Yeah, just waits for the board, pings her up, straight legs, perfectly straight legs. Slightly left, slightly more left in the entries, but
Definitely.
That's the only minor criticism.
Oh, unlucky from Grace there. Once again, though, exactly what I said about Catherine. She made a mistake, but there's more dives to be done. Grace has made an unfortunate mistake here with the bulk. That keeps Catherine in the game, so she's got to stay focused. She's got to stay on point, because there's more dives to be done.
Oh, what a recovery, though, from Grace.
Well done. It was actually a really good decision, I think, from her to stop on the first hurdle, because there's no way that dive would have got these scores, even with the 2-point deduction off that hurdle.
Yeah, so just In case you aren't aware at home, if the divers do choose to restart, which Grace did there, they do get a 2-point deduction from all the judges. So the judges will still mark out of 10, and then each judge's score will have 2 points deducted before timesing by the degree of difficulty as normal. Also potentially gives Scarlett a chance to claw some ground back. This dive this morning was very, very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Catherine's not the only one that could potentially benefit from those mistakes from the other girls. Scarlett obviously had a slight drop in the last round, and this dive will get her right back into the mix. Not quite as good as it was this morning, just a couple of points down, but a really strong dive, and that'll keep her in touching distance.
Yeah, so we will see our current rankings after 3 rounds in a second, I believe. So as you said, Grace Reed, great decision on that restart. Claire Cryan flying after 3 dives, 204.3 puts her in the lead. Plenty to play for, up for those top 4 British spots. A couple of guests in there with Claire and Amelia. Currently then our top 4 Brits are Grace, Yasmin, Deshawn and Scarlett. So like you just mentioned, Scarlett has managed to pull her way back up. 2 dives left though, so plenty more to play for, plenty of points to be gained, plenty of points to be lost.
Absolutely.
Nina, reverse 2.5 somersaults piked here. Very clever.
Yeah, that was a good effort. I wasn't too sure about her placement in the hurdle, but she did a good job of getting onto the end of the board and giving herself a chance of doing a good dive. And
yeah,
as you say, super clever, waiting for the somersault to come round.
I thought she hadn't quite got the hip extension that she might need on this takeoff to get all the speed, so it just looked like it was slowing down, but she's aware of that in the air, and she puts her feet up to the sky and lines it up perfectly upright. Leme Pasanto needed a bit of a recovery on these last 2 dives this morning to make it through to the final.
Yeah, and the back and reverses were her real strength this morning. We were speaking about her good technique on the come out, and there she goes once again, displaying that good quality technique, kicking tight, looking at the toes, holding, hands on thighs first, then looking back and reaching for the water. Just missed the end slightly, but great dive.
Yeah, done some really good work. I've always thought personally that Holly's forward and inward are more of her strength, but she's clearly doing some great work on the back and reverse as well, because the awareness and entries as well are looking much, much better.
Of course, based out in America.
Yeah,
now.
Get the benefit of doing loads of competitions out in America as well. Good dive as well from Evie. I really, really enjoy watching her hurdle steps. Got so much attack. She's so high coming to the end of the board.
Yeah, she just went a little bit soft in the midsection on the push there, and just drifted a touch too far forwards. Left the dive a tiny little bit short. As you can see, that takeoff just drifting away from the board a little bit too much. So just run that rim a little bit too quickly.
Emily with her forward direction. Forward 3.5 somersaults tuck. So you've seen this dive a few times. You've also seen it piked. In the tuck position, you get 2.8 on the degree of difficulty. In the pike, you get 3.1, so a little bit low down on the DD. Great direction again out of the board from Emily.
She is consistent. She is really consistent.
Yeah, her takeoffs are all very consistent. Her hurdle step's good. Slightly more left in that end. Just let her chest stick out a little bit, which is why you see the splash being thrown up.
Yeah, that's one thing maybe she needs to work on, is with all the height that she's got, she can actually start to develop a bit more of a come-out sequence, and that will result in better quality entries. So lots of line-up drills, lots of easy dives, and if she can improve the entries on these dives, then maybe she doesn't even need to upgrade to a height list too soon.
So currently in the top 4 of the Brits, Deshawn, reverse 2.5 somersaults pike. Don't think that's going to do any harm.
No, that was pretty good. That was a really good takeoff, nice and patient. I thought it was a little bit early on the press actually, but she managed to reach and throw those arms back for the water really accurately and get a good entry on her reverse 2.5 pike.
Yeah, when you kick those feet out, you give yourself a little bit of a look, usually, of where you are in the air. It gives you an idea of how much you have to adapt to get that upright finish. Great dive there from Amy. Very early on the flick.
Yeah, loads of time in there. Again, just a little bit missed time on the hurdle, and I feel like she's not really relaxed into her hurdles at all today so far. I've always seen a little bit of tension in those hurdle sets, but actually, fortunately for her, it doesn't really matter because she flies off the board anyway.
Yeah, probably helps her, slows it down a little bit.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, Catherine, you mentioned keeping calm. She finishes with what we would usually say are strongest directions, reverse and back. This is, I think, the highest scoring potential dive for her.
Ooh,
I think that's going to be...
Great dive. That was a really good takeoff. She went super high, had so much time when they come out.
Yeah, I really like that from Catherine. I'm surprised we don't see any 8s there. Really good dive. Sometimes when a diver has dropped in a previous round, the judges can almost hold that against you a little bit. When you do a good dive, they don't give you the rewards that you perhaps may have got if you are flying already in the competition.
Yeah, she did leave it slightly past vertical, but regardless, a great dive for her, and again, keeps her in touch and distance of the rest of the pack.
Now Yasmin, same dive, similar to the last round.
Really good there from
Great
Yasmin.
recovery from Yasmin.
Absolutely, that shows the mental strength, the grit to bounce back from a frustrating mistake in the last round and come back with a really strong effort. 63 points on the rest of the pike. Great work.
Straight 7s from the judges, so very similar total score to Catherine. Now Claire, the leader, she's on fire so far. This is the one that I think is the biggest, well, has the biggest variation in scores in our list. She can, of course, do it very well like she did on the back 2.5.
She really taking a moment to compose herself before approaching the hurdle step.
Oh, it was there as well.
Such
the
a
kick was the
shame.
right time. Just needed to squeeze a bum in and reach those arms back.
Yeah, she, again, similar to Evie actually, she just drifted a little bit forwards on her takeoff, and even though the start was high, the kick was right, it just drops a little bit quicker than you expect it, so you don't quite get the reach back through the water, and that's what caused her to drop a touch short.
Yeah, it's a shame there from Claire. She's still on 250, so gives her a great opportunity to get over that 300 benchmark score. Amelia as well in third position, 183 after the last round, so she claws a bit of ground back on Claire. Great dive there from her again.
Yeah, she's super powerful on this dive, makes it really easy. Really nice form, legs tight together all the way through, touch over on the end. So that's where she drops a few half marks, if anything.
Yeah, I think if she can neaten up her entries a little bit, she will really be challenging on the world stage. Or the takeoff and aerial work is excellent.
Well, good composure from Grace here to execute another solid dive, the number 2.5 pike. As we've spoken about, real challenge to get the right balance away from the board without putting your legs in danger. Obviously, Grace is another tall diver, so she's got quite long legs, has to account for that when she does the takeoff. Just running out of room a touch on the bottom, but solid dive.
Yeah, it just shows though what consistency can do for you in the competition. She's currently now in the lead. Not a massive hit for her there, but steady scores means that she puts the points on the board. Scarlett's done some really good work on this dive.
Yeah.
It's looking so good at the moment.
I agree, and really consistent as well, you know, from training, as you mentioned, to the competition this morning and to now. Great dive, 8.5 in there as well. Judges really like that one.
Yeah, good recovery from Scarlett after that second round dive.
And that's it, she's still in the hunt, she's still right there, ready for any other mistakes that might come. She can take the opportunity to keep pushing herself up the leaderboard.
Yeah, she's pipped up in front of Yasmin by 0.25 now as well, so very close there.
Oh, so so unfortunate. It was a good effort to make the dive actually from that hurdle. Really, really, really good effort.
Yeah, we mentioned Grace stopping. There's no way that Nina would have been able to stop there and remain on the board. Her feet were way too far over the end of the springboard. So, fortunately, she had to do her best to just try and fit that dive in. You can see slips a little bit with one of her feet as well.
She does a fair job of getting that far around. But it's really tough when you step down with your toes over the end of the board, just leaning that far forward. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it, unfortunately. So, unfortunate there for Nina. Really, really unfortunate because she had put together quite a solid list before that dive.
Now, Holly, with her last dive, really helped her into the final this morning. Reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck.
Could see from the takeoff there, it just wasn't quite the same start. Didn't quite have the same speed, the same energy as she did this morning. And it just stalled as she kicked out, which is a real shame. Again, she's another one that was putting together a great list. Much improved on this morning, and just a small mistake right at the end. But she should be super happy overall with how she's done today.
Yeah, and this weekend as well, of course. Silver medal on the 1 metre, so extremely successful weekend for Holly.
Yeah, that was an amazing performance down there on the 1 metre. All about execution there, similarly to up here.
Now Evie, 4 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist. Great finish from her as well. That's her best dive today in the final.
Yeah, I'd just like to see Evie move with a little bit more patience sometimes. I feel like, especially in this dive, she just went a little bit rushed, a little bit snatched into her arm swing. So she kind of comes through and completes the arm swing whilst the board is still at the bottom, and it's a little bit too early for me, so the dive just stalls. She's a little bit more patient, she'll get a little bit more power through the board, get the arms all the way through, and should make the dive a little bit easier, but that'll come with experience as she becomes more comfortable with the dive, a bit more relaxed in these circumstances. She'll absolutely get there. As you mentioned, she's still a junior.
Yep, still competing as a junior this year.
She's still got
Tilly,
time.
of course, in synchro as well. They just won the Dresden International Synchro event on this board.
Wow.
Really like that dive from Amelie.
Yeah, I would say I'm super impressed with her diving. That was quality. Great twist, really fast twist, great form all the way through. Good awareness, good spot for the water, good line, good squeeze.
It's quite a nice dive to watch when it's done well like
Yeah.
that. It's quite elegant, straight line on that twist. She does really well to keep her feet together as well.
Absolutely. It's a really strong score, 264 from a tuck list, essentially. Great work.
Yeah, great work from her. Clearly a good competitor as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, she stepped up from prelim to final.
Good finish from Deshawn. That's going to give her a chance of getting in the top 3 Brits.
Wow, really great
63
dive.
points on the inward 2.5 somersaults pipe. There's a few divers finishing on this dive too.
Yeah, again, one of her favoured dives, clearly. Super comfortable on that. That's a great position on that takeoff. Just goes straight up, perfect balance, and allows her to actually drop in upright without over-rotating too much through the water, which is why the judges are willing to give her those scores. Great job from Jashawn, especially coming back from injury today.
Amy again making the dive very easily, just struggling to stop that rotation. Had a bit of lean away from the board, and when you do have that lean, increase your spin speed and just makes it really hard to stop that rotation on the water, which is why you just see her legs drift over from vertical.
That's it. Amy's super powerful, and look how high she goes on that start. She almost actually just needs to not hold back, but just use it with a little bit more control rather than putting everything 100% into it. Just needs to be a little bit more calm with her movements, let the board do a little bit more work, and that'll bring a lot more control to her diving. But yeah, so much potential.
Catherine following it with the same dive.
Good work there from Catherine, really good work. That's a tough dive for her, and she is usually very confident on it, as we saw there. Left it a tiny little bit short, but she did such good work underwater. That shows the quality of her back and reverse entries. She was able to keep the splash down even though she landed a little bit on her shoulders.
Yeah, she'll be a little bit disappointed. Got over the 300 mark at this event in Edinburgh back in the winter, so 271, a little bit down on that score. as is Yasmin. Won this event with 318.45 in February. Now currently on 233, so not going to be possible for her to get as high a score as that. She is within the top 4 competition though, and I think that's going to help her cement a place up there. Great dive from Yasmin.
Definitely, she's so powerful. She moves so fast into her shapes.
Good recovery there from that drop in the middle. Forward 3.5. Wasn't what she would have liked, but to recover and finish up with 2 very good dives is exactly what you mentioned. Other people are always capable of dropping too, so you have to keep putting your dives in to the good standard that you want.
That's it.
Get you up as high as possible.
I always try and approach a competition as in 6 individual dives, so I don't want one to affect the other. So if you make a mistake on one, it doesn't matter, you just move on to the next one.
Claire with her last dive. Amazing first 3 dives. Last 2 dives, not quite as good as we saw this morning. Well, the reverse 2.5 this morning was slightly dropped as well, but in between half, still pretty good scores. Gets over that 300 mark, which is a great goal and benchmark score for her.
Yeah,
That'll see her get into semi-finals and finals internationally too. So
absolutely, and that's what Claire is chasing this year. It's the first opportunity to try and qualify for the Paris Olympics at the World Championships in summer, and she'll be looking to try and make that final and give herself an opportunity to qualify.
And Amelia with a great in-between half somersaults pike to finish 2. Judges like that one. He had a couple of 8s there.
Yeah, I like that one as well. She's so powerful. Great positioning over the boards. And the pike shape is just class. Really class. Look at the squeeze in that shape. Perfectly straight lines and great finish. Good save under the water. Good job from Amelia.
So Grace was in first after the last round. Her big one to finish on. Forward 3.5 somersaults pike. Ooh, it's going to be interesting to see how the judges go with that one.
Yeah, it looked like she didn't quite get into her pike shape as much as she would normally do so, and that kind of affected the way that she came out of the dive. Maybe her arms weren't quite in the right place. Maybe threw her off on the come out touch, and she wasn't quite able to get her hands on the end, just kind of dropping into a slight pike shape.
Yeah, puts her into second behind Amelia, but very likely that she will be the British champion, unless we see something extremely spectacular here from Scarlett.
Great hurdle. Great dive.
It's a good dive. It's a good dive. It's not going to be enough to take Grace, but really good recovery after that second round dive from Scarlett. Puts her up 0.65 behind Yasmin.
0.65.
0.65 behind Yasmin. So the top 2 Brits are Grace and Yasmin, closely, very, very closely followed by Scarlett. And then 10 points behind that is Deshawn. So again, very hotly competed. Not quite as high a score as we saw this morning. 3-2-1 from Scarlett.
For sure, they started off so strong, and maybe I slightly jinxed them by saying they should try and keep up that quality, but that's not always how diving competitions work. It's ups and downs. You've got to stay focused for every single dive. You've got to try and execute, and mistakes can happen. It's a question of how aware of the mistakes you are, whether you follow the competition or not. Something I've tried to do slightly differently in the last couple of years. I've tried to stay actually a little bit more engaged with the competition, follow the scores so I can respond to other divers and just try and hype myself up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an event that sees very similar degree of difficulties throughout the whole competition, so those little drops can be so important in this event. So in the boys event, if you do have a drop, then you have the big 3.8s, 3.9s that can make up 20 points just on one dive, whereas the girls with the 3.0s and the maximum 3.1 degree of difficulty don't quite have the same opportunity to make up such ground. But it means there's extra pressure, and only 5 dives as well. I mean, there's less opportunity to make ground back. So when you do have that little drop in there, it is hard, but we've seen from all of our girls, for the likes of Yasmin and Scarlett, they both had a drop in there in their list, but remained calm, put the other dives in, got some good scores, and hopefully for them, they will be rewarded by getting the selections for the competitions upcoming so far, such as the World Championships and the European Games.
Yeah, let's not get it wrong as well. Like, these scores are still very competitive internationally. You know, the goal this summer is to try and qualify as many spots as possible individually, and those scores are competitive to get you towards an individual final. So we're being very picky here in terms of the quality. You know, that's the level of expectation that there is in British diving at the moment. It's the level of quality we expect to see day in, day out, every single day, every time we compete. So yeah, we're being a bit picky, but it's actually probably a good thing.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of a technical delay in terms of getting the final results up on the screen for you, so hopefully we'll get that resolved very shortly. But in the meantime, you get to watch a little bit of the preparations for the boys on the 10 metre. Interesting for you to see some of the little bits that they do. Not necessarily doing their actual dives like you may see on the Springboard. Some of them just choosing to do some entry practice.
Yeah, now at this stage, now at this stage, you know, they've done their optionals probably once or twice already today in the training session earlier and then in the competition. So they should have a feeling of how the optionals go. They might do one or two. Maybe they'll do their first dive. This might be what Robbie is doing up here on 10 metre now. But, you know, they just want to get a feel of the water, get a feel of the movement, get a feel of how they're feeling. The adrenaline, slightly more than the prelim. And just they can take those lessons into the competition and bring the control from there.
Yeah, we always used to refer to it as the final vibe, didn't
Final
we?
vibe.
The training before the men's event always used to be, had a bit of a buzz to it.
Final vibe.
Everyone nailing the dives, there was always clapping each other. Obviously,
Exactly.
Everyone in the diving family tends to be very supportive of each other. It is an individual sport, but what you do doesn't necessarily affect what your peer does. So it almost means that the best man wins. Everyone respects everyone, which
100%.
is great to see within the sport.
That's it, supportive, but we egg each other on as well. We're pushing each other. We're you know, we make a little mistake, we'll have little bit of a dig here and there.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
you know, if you do a good dive, we'll back it, but that will actually motivate us to try and do an even better dive.
Yeah.
Because we, you know, we're friends and we're friendly and we're nice, but we're competitive, and that is 100% true.
And I believe that is probably part of the reason as well why we've had such a almost golden generation in terms of the strength in depth on all boards, really. The male, as we've just seen, the female event on the Springboard there, there's 6 divers, really, when you're looking at that list, that any one of them could go and become British champion. And Grace has managed to take the British title there again, as she has done in the past. That experience paying off for her.
Absolutely. We don't get it anymore where, you know, the same person just wins over and over and over again. It doesn't happen. There's so much more variety.
Tom's retired.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
maybe not retired, now he's had a break. He was probably the anomaly in terms of being the most consistent diver I've ever come across, especially at these British Nationals.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you can't take it easy at Nationals anymore. You've got to turn up and be ready to fight for your place. And, you know, it's not just the medals that they're fighting for here. They're fighting for their place at the international competitions coming up this summer. We've got the European Games in June, I believe, and the World Championships in July. So that's where the real fight is.
Yeah, World Championships back in Japan as well. So, yeah, good to the divers to get back there. So whilst we are waiting to get the final results on the screen for you, we will give you a little bit of a replay. Our British champion, Grace Reid. I believe we have the highlights of her list, so we'll let you recap the dives that enabled her to become British champion.
Just going to go over some of the dives from the
Sorry,
competition.
slightly delayed. So Grace, our British champion, Amelia, I believe, will take the title overall. But Grace here with her 5-dive list. That reverse 2.5, of course, did have a 2-point deduction, but great decision from her. Really shows her experience and maturity to make that decision.
Absolutely.
Remain calm and then execute it as well as she did. I probably would say it is her best dive overall in terms of execution.
Yeah. How do you feel when, you know, you bulking? Have you ever bulked in competition before?
I did it at Commonwealth Games in reverse 3.5. That was horrible. It was really horrible. All I could think in my head was, please don't do it again. Please don't do it again. But yeah, it was a tough one, but it was a good decision for me as well. I did a really good reverse 3.5 after it, so you know I was happy I made that decision. But I think we'll take a very short break. We'll hopefully have the results up on the screen for you very, very shortly. But for now, we'll have a very short break and we'll be back with you very soon.
No, we're still waiting on some results to come through, just the recorders getting the classifications together, so we'll have a little watch of Claire's diving. Really, really strong start. The first 3 dives from Claire were awesome. There with a front 3.5, and just this is where it started to go a little bit wrong. Just a reverse 2.5 tuck, dropping a touch short. In with 2.5, similar, touch short, but great power, great dive, good competition from Claire. So here we have our results from the women's 3-metre final. In first place in the British event, Yasmin Harper with 299.75. Scarlett coming back from a disappointing second round dive to claim second place, and Grace up there in third place after her unfortunate restart. But she managed to make a good decision, do a really good dive and keep her spot on the podium. Great performance from Deshawn, getting up into fourth position, bringing in her hardest dive after her injury, and good performance from the rest of the girls all the way down.
Hello and welcome back to Deep End Live. It's our first British champion joining me here, Yasmin Harper. And congratulations, another title for you today. How was that?
Thank you. Yeah, honestly, that was a stressful one. Wasn't the most smooth of finals, but you know, in the end, it's turned out in first, so I'm really pleased.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of dives probably didn't go your way today, but diving's a lot about the mindset, isn't it? We were speaking about this pre-show. Just talk about how important the mindset is in diving.
I think the mind is as important as the physical, you know. You can be diving at your best in the training and the warm-up, but, you know, you can slip right down in the competition and vice versa. So, yeah, it is definitely a mind game, diving.
But that should secure your spot at the World Championships coming up in Japan. Lots to look forward to.
Yeah, we'll just have to see, but hopefully I'll get that spot on the World Championships.
So what does the next year look like for you? Because obviously, if there is the World Champs, there's the Olympics to look forward to next year as well. Lots to focus on.
Well, this year is all about qualifying a space for GB at the Olympics, and then obviously come around to next national championships. That's when it really counts, and be able to qualify an actual spot to go to Paris.
You've had a fantastic British diving championships here. You won the women's 1 metre and the synchro as well. You must be really happy overall with your performance.
Yeah, as a whole, I'm pleased. Definitely need to go away, work on a few bits and make myself a little bit more solid going on to the summer.
Well, you're a pleasure to watch.
Thank you.
So I wish you the best of luck for all the future.
Thank you.
Now, before we let you go, we've just got a quick game.
Yep.
It's our Truth or Lie challenge. You can see the leaderboard is up behind you. So basically, because we're looking ahead to the World Championships and European Games in Poland, we just thought it'd be a bit of fun just to see how much all of you athletes actually know about the two countries. So I've got 3 statements, 3 statements for Japan, 3 statements for Poland. 2 are a truth, and 1 of the statements is a lie, and you just have to either know or guess which one you think is the lie.
Right, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Are we ready?
I'll do my best. I'm not sure how much I know, but we'll
okay. Okay, so Fukuoka, the city where the World Aquatics will be held, has Japan's only toilet museum.
The only toilet museum?
Only toilet museum, yes. Fukuoka, the city where the World Aquatics will be held.
Sure, let's say that's true.
The well-known animated series Pokemon, Naruto, Powerpuff Girls all originate from Japan. Truth or a lie?
Oh, I think that's true.
And lastly, Tokyo is the most populated city in the world. Remember, one of them has to be a lie.
Yeah, I think that's the lie.
No, that's not correct. So Tokyo is the most populated city in the world. The lie was actually the second one. Pokemon, Powerpuff Girls. Powerpuff Girls are actually originate from the USA. But who would have guessed?
Oh, right, yeah, no, I wasn't getting that one.
Okay, now moving on to Poland. So the city Krakow in Poland is the largest city in the country. Truth or a lie?
Largest city in the country?
In Poland.
In Poland.
Yeah, Krakow, yeah.
Can we come back to that one?
Okay, no problem. The European Diving Championships will be held in Rzeszów in Poland. Rzeszów.
The
European Games will be held in Rzeszów in Poland.
No, I think that's a lie.
Okay. The Melbourne Castle in Poland is the biggest castle in the world. Truth or a lie? Give it a guess. I didn't even know.
True?
That is true.
I think
that is
one's
true.
The lie.
Okay, so you got that one right. So the second one, no, the first one was the lie.
Right, okay,
Krakow
I don't
is
know
not
anything.
the largest city in Poland. It is Warsaw. I'm actually learning a lot here myself as well.
Okay, yeah, no. I'm not very good at this.
Okay, so I don't actually think we got any correct there, did we?
Probably not.
Okay, you'll be going up on the leaderboard no matter what.
Okay.
You're a brilliant diver, so it's all good.
you.
Doesn't matter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Feeling that cost of living crunch? Labara are here to help.
All I want is great customer service and network, but for less.
That's why Labara gives you 15 gigabytes of 5G data and unlimited UK minutes and text for just £10 a month. Plus, no contract, change or cancel anytime.
An excellent customer service.
So what's stopping you joining the bill-busting revolution? Labara. More for less.
Welcome back to Deep End Live. Joining me here in the studio is one of our favourites. It's Jack Haslam.
Oh, one of the favourites. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us back. So we've got the men's platform final coming up, our final of the day, of the whole competition.
Yeah, it's been a great weekend, hasn't it? I think speak for everyone when I say that watching the events has been a joy. We've had some amazing competitions so far. This one sometimes can be looked at as the pinnacle of the events. It really is one that gives you the wow factor. You get those rip entries on the 10 metre, which all our boys are really, really capable of. So really looking forward to it, and hopefully we see some more big scores.
Now, obviously, we just had the women's 3 metre final as well. So many big names, such a competitive event. Obviously, it was Yasmin Harper who eventually got the gold, but you just never know who's going to come out on top at the moment, do you?
Yeah, you don't, especially when the scores are taken off the 2 points and then added them back on. So that added a little bit of a complexity to us, which also has to be said in the round of dives when you're looking at the scores. You know, if you are a diver that likes to track the scores, can also add that added bit of pressure too. So, you know, it can affect everything, and it's not as high a score as we saw this morning, but at the end of the day, the divers have got to go in there and they've got to beat the other divers that are in the competition, and Yasmin's done that for the British champion title once again, 1 metre and 3 metre and the synchro event too. So great weekend for her.
You talk about pressure there. There is a lot of pressure here because a lot of divers want to get that spot for the World Championships. Yasmin Harper should have secured that and a Grace 3, but we'll have to find out. Yeah,
we'll have to find out. Obviously, there's the score, and then winning the event does automatically qualify you, but the second spot is all down to the selection committee's discretion. So, you know, it leaves it a little bit more open for their interpretation. Obviously, Scarlett got a great score in the prelim, the highest score of the 3 metre event across the day, so that will obviously be taken into consideration too, but very interesting to see. Obviously, I wouldn't like to be in the position of waiting to find out what they've chosen for, but we will, I'm sure, find out in the next couple of days.
Okay, well, we've got the men's platform final about to start now. I know you're needed back up in comms. It's going to be a fantastic final again, but that is actually all from us here in the studio. Thank you all so much for watching. The men's platform final is about to get underway, so stay tuned.
Good afternoon and welcome back to day 4 of the British Diving Championships 2023 at Ponds Forge International Sports Centre here in Sheffield. We're just introducing the judges at the moment, ready and waiting for the competitors in the men's 10 metre final. It should be parading very shortly, and then we'll get the competition started and underway, the last event before the end of this championships. And a great championships it has been so far, some high quality diving, really exciting competition, some tough results for a few divers, but that is the nature of our sport, and I'm sure we've got more to come in this final event as the boys fight it out for the podium positions and also qualification for the summer of international events. We have the European Games coming up, and we have the World Championships coming up in July. Now, we've actually had a change in the start list after those who qualified from the prelim, as one diver has pulled out. So our first diver is Archie Bigging from City of Sheffield Diving Club. Then we have Angus Memia from Edinburgh Diving Club, Nikolaos Molvalis from Greece, Athanasios Sirikos from Greece, Romano Wang representing Dive London Aquatics Club, Riccardo Giovannini representing Italy, Matthew Dixon from Dive London, Ben Cutmore from Dive London, Robbie Lee representing Southampton Diving Academy, and the last three are all from Dive London Aquatics Club: Matty Lee, Kyle Cathari, and our top qualifier, Noah Williams. So, as we get into this last event, I'm joined once again by Jack Haslam. I'm Young Light Wisdom, and we'll be taking you through this last event of the weekend.
The last one.
The last one.
The big one. The big 10 metre. Yeah, excited for this one. Really, really. I'm encouraged to see some of our big hitters go toe-to-toe. And I think we might. I've got a sneaky feeling we might see a 500-plus score here.
Well,
don't want to put any pressure on or jinx anyone.
We got a bit excited about the girls, especially after the first round, and didn't quite pick up in the same way that we were hoping for. Although it was still a very exciting competition, really close end. I mean, less than a point between first and second in the British event.
Yeah, threw us off as well, didn't it, with the little mistake on the scoreboard as well. So, absolutely. All drama.
Yeah, non-stop here at the diving.
Just to add to the entertainment of the diving, bit of drama with the scoreboards too. So, Yasmin Harper obviously ended up taking the title. So, another individual medal for her as well. Yeah. Joining the 1 metre event also means, obviously from a biased standpoint from me, 4 out of 4 Springboard goals for City of Sheffield Diving in their home pool.
Well,
so
you could say home pool advantage.
Yeah, exactly. You could say home pool advantage, but you've still got to perform, as Leon said.
You've still got to bring it. You've still got to bring it on the day. So, yeah, I think it's best that we say nothing about the boys. Let's not put any pressure on them. Let's just let them do their diving and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, although I'm still going to look for that 500-plus score. I want to see it.
There's got to be at least one. Come on, yeah, one of them.
Dan's looking really entertained by this song, really getting involved there.
Now, that was unnecessary. He doesn't even know he's on camera.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant.
That is just Dan's normal facial expression, though, to be fair. I'm not sure if I've ever seen him smile.
Great. Surely that Olympic medal might have...
No, not even none.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I think our judges are in position.
Judges are ready.
Just waiting for Archie. Great to see him get an opportunity here, of course. Never want to see anyone pull out with an injury, but Archie let known that he would be doing this competition about 5 minutes before it's kicked off. So it's not easy, especially for a young lad, to come into this competition. He's obviously got big names, big competitors competing. That's quite intimidating. To be told 5 minutes before, just worth noting that you got to have a very, very, very quick warm-up.
Yeah.
Just got in the pool, done a couple of little dives to loosen his body off, and he will kick off the competition for us.
Yeah, of course, not the ideal preparation, but actually, you know, you can come in with absolutely no pressure, no expectation, and just dive. And that's the most important thing. Just dive, just enjoy it, just take in the environment. Got a decent crowd in to watch this 10-metre final, and yeah, you get to dive along some extremely good divers. So let's see what happens. He's just making his way up the stairs now. A long way up for such a small man.
Well, not as long as he normally goes with his high diving.
Yeah, well, that's very true, actually. This is just a walk in the park for him. And, well, here he is at his home pool. I'm sure you can hear the support behind us.
Looks like he's enjoying it too.
As he should.
Starts off with a big one for him as well. It's worth noting, these dives that he's doing on the 10 metre are all, well, pretty much all, learned in the last couple of months too. So
really,
I believe so.
Wow.
I believe so. So to be able to compete them in this competition. You know, great experience for him, great bravery from him to put them all in as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You might as well. Nothing to lose at this point. Absolutely nothing to lose, just everything to gain. So here we go, starting with his back 2.5 somersaults and 1.5 twists to open up the competition.
Yeah, his biggest dive, 3.2 degree of difficulty. Hopefully he can open the competition for us and for him with a big one. Well done, Archie. Improvement on this morning. Thrown in at the last minute, thrown in at the deep end, as you could say.
Yeah, much better than his start this morning. He scored 36 points this morning, up to 51, so that will hopefully allow him to carry a bit of confidence through for the rest of the event.
Now, your training partner, or one of your training partners, one of the many,
yep.
Angus, with her forward 3.5 somersaults pike. Great entry. You mentioned this morning that he's a man that really is talented with the entries through the water, showing that on his first dive.
Yeah, and Angus has been off with illness the last week, so he has actually not had the best preparation for this competition, so it's good to see him just throwing himself in at the deep end and, oh, pardon the pun, and just taking advantage of the opportunity to dive and try and get some hands down.
Nicolaus with the same dive. Again, you might notice the running takeoff on the 10 metre. A lot of the divers do choose to start with the run for the forward rotating dives. Just gives you that extra bit of speed and power into your jump.
Yeah, and exactly the same score as this morning, so a very consistent start.
Yeah, he's been pretty consistent throughout the day. Athanasios, again, another 107B.
Getting right on with it. No hesitation there, but unfortunately just tucking his chin down on the end and rolling that dive over.
Yeah, wasting no time whatsoever. The referee blew his whistle and he was off onto his run.
Now, just seeing his shoulders getting a little bit too far ahead of him there on the end of the board, and maybe that's what ended up carrying the dive over. You want to get those arms right behind your ear, stay nice and tall, then pop strong out of your legs, drive it up, hips over your head, and then that'll allow you to get a bit of a better drop on the end. Now, I'm not talking from experience because I wasn't a very good platform diver, but you know, I've watched enough diving over the years, so hopefully got enough of an insight.
Yeah, I think you gave up even earlier than me on the 10 metre, didn't you?
It was a long time ago. Not
now
for me.
Romano.
Too high.
Starting off with an arm stand. Good work from him. Pushes up out of the board. Maybe just could have flicked his feet up a little bit higher to get the direction, and that just give him a little bit more control into his entry.
Yeah, I felt like that flick came almost a little bit too late. He almost started to lean a little bit too far before he flicked his legs and went into the twist action. That flick came a little bit earlier. It'd give him a better drop, but actually a better score than he achieved this morning on that same dive, so better start for Romano this afternoon.
Now Ricardo. Some really good stuff from him this morning.
That's a quality start. I really, really enjoyed that takeoff. I really did.
Yeah, very flat into his twist. Great jump out of the board. And then not much to critique about that, really. Great entry through the water, too.
Yeah, you can see the good quality coaching, the good quality technique that's been reinforced here. As he swings his arm through, there's such little body movement, so his direction just goes straight up, giving him a good drop on the end there.
Yeah,
Great
very
dive.
good dive from him. Now, the first of our probably big hitters, you could say, Matthew Dixon.
Yeah, the divers using the most difficult dives is basically from Matthew all the way through to the end to Noah. The guys that want to compete for the medals and for the qualifications.
Starts off with a bit of an unusual one to start. 307C. Reverse 3.5. Stood it up very tall on the takeoff.
Yeah, I feel like it was a bit of final adrenaline, almost a little bit too much, and almost used his body a little bit too much on that takeoff, and then it just transferred through the end as well.
Yeah, maybe just pulled his chest a little bit too much than, well, a little bit more than he would normally. I don't think it was particularly close, but just makes you twitch a little bit.
A little bit.
Especially on the platforms.
And that's right, it's not close, but actually Matt normally goes a little bit further away than that because he gets his full extension out the board, and that time just snatched a little bit. And as I say, that carried it over on the end, unfortunately. But still, solid dive to open. Plenty of time to, you know, stay in the mix and keep battling those boys at the top.
Ben also starts with an arm stand dive. Beautiful leg line. Look at that toe point there in his handstand.
His leg line is quality, isn't it? Now,
yeah, leg line was very good until the twist.
Yeah, and that's something that, as we mentioned this morning, Ben has been working on his form throughout his twist all the way through the end, and that was actually a little bit better than he achieved this morning. Now we'll be able to see it in the slow motion replay.
Yeah, just as he repikes, his feet just come apart.
He managed to get them back together a little bit quicker than the morning, but the judges will notice that, the judges will pick up on it, and unfortunately that's reflecting in the scores for Ben. But it's an ongoing process, something that you just got to keep on working at.
Now Robbie, inward 3.5, really impressive in the junior competitions and the senior competitions so far for the last couple of years.
Yeah, great start there from Robbie. Actually, looked really confident on the jump, but I felt like he didn't quite get enough throw over the board into the shape, so it just stalled a touch on the end. Really clean entry, as he's just saying there, left it a little bit short, so he feels like he could have done a little bit more on the end to work it all the way around and get his really, well, signature rip at this point.
Yep, Matty Lee starts with a big one, a 3.6. Not quite the highest degree of difficulty dive in his list. There's a forward 4.5 somersaults in the tuck position later on in the competition. That one's a 3.7. Oh no, Matty.
Now, I spoke to Matty after the prelim this morning, and he was actually really content with his performance, even with a small mistake on his back arm stand triple. He was content with the score, solid, just what he wanted for a start, and he wanted to try and build it this afternoon, and you can see him really trying there, almost maybe just trying that little bit too hard. Yeah, just a little bit of over-pump, and maybe that's a little bit of lack of experience that he's got in the individual event. I mean, he's done a lot of individual competitions, of course, but just that little bit of, you know, composure that he needs. Maybe Tom helped bring that out of him when they were doing synchro together, but, you know, he'll learn, he'll bring himself back from this, and as we say, there's still a long competition to go, and he's got a lot more to fight out for.
That is one of the dives, of course, that he didn't do with Tom in the synchro, so
absolutely
not trained it as much over the last few years. Now Kyle, back arm stand double, 1.5 twists. Oh, like a bullet through the water.
We both laughed at that. I think he landed so far past vertical, but there was just nothing from the splash.
The funny thing is, on that takeoff from Kyle, he barely even flicks. He doesn't really need to attack that takeoff very much.
He actually gets a really strong jump out of his arms as well.
Yeah, he barely kicks his legs as much as you may see from others, but it's because he finds it so easy, twists so quick.
I know that Kyle has worked on an extra twist on that dive, but it's not quite there yet, so he's still going with the easier option for now. What a start.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Amazing dive there from Noah.
Such a high jump. You could see the power from the takeoff.
It was 0.05 off getting 500 this morning.
Start.
That's a massive dive for him to start with.
Really strong that takeoff. Beautiful through the water. Absolutely great save. Thought it was just drifting over a touch, but he pulled that water down.
Yeah,
so
top
strongly.
qualifier from this morning, reigning national champion from the Winter Nationals too. So you may describe him as your favourite for the event.
He started off like it as well.
Oh, Archie. Really confident positions, just maybe lacking a little bit of speed in his rotation. Needed to kick his feet up a little bit higher to match that spin speed.
Actually, I would say that it's good to go through the right positions, the right movements as much as possible without trying to go for too much speed from the start. And yeah, obviously he needs way more speed on that or a slightly later kick, but you can see the technique. He's doing the right things. He just needs to learn how to do them at the right time.
Back to Angus. Back 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twist. Oh, that's a shame. Not quite the same rip entry we saw from him on the first dive.
Yeah, Angus has been working hard in that start to try and get the speed of rotation over to give him time to drop in on the end. And yeah, unfortunately that time just didn't quite get the timing of the arm swing and the jump right to be able to get through. wrap into that twist strong and get the fast repike that he wanted. Maybe just a little bit of fatigue. As I say, he's not been training as much over the last week, so maybe just a bit of fatigue from this morning carrying through to now.
Now Nikolaus, back 2.5 somersaults.
Oh!
Came out so early.
I love that style. I love that style. Such an easy dive. I love that style. Fair play, judge number 2 throwing out the 9.5.
I like it.
I like that. You know, it's an easy dive, but it still takes skill and precision to execute. And I mean, look what he did here. Great start, good form, slightly open in the
It may be
pike
an easier
shape.
dive, but you still, even though it's an easier dive, you still need those execution marks. You need them even more, really.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be doubly punished by having a lower degree of difficulty and then also not getting those 10s that you may aim for. Athanasios with what we described as a rarer dive this morning, a reverse 2.5 somersaults in the pike position. Don't often see this one competed. It's quite hard to get the distance away from the board to be able to make that pike shape in the reverse direction.
Yeah, we'll get a direct comparison of the other option coming up next from Romano with his reverse 2.5 tuck, and then actually we go back to the reverse 2.5 pike with Ricardo coming just after him.
Yeah, Romano, very good this morning. Really accurate on his come-outs.
Yeah, we really enjoyed his back and reverse styles and sequences this morning. Really composes himself first before he goes, which is...
Yeah, he's a diver that likes to take his time before he does his dive.
a sign of confidence. Great jump.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Quality. Such a good jump. And now, this is actually an interesting technique that he does on the takeoff. It's actually a very Chinese-style technique, and you can tell that he's had Chinese coaching, obviously with Zinda, who was based in Crystal Palace all those years ago. He doesn't quite get his arms all the way through to his ears. It's more of like a shoulder takeoff, but the body doesn't really move. The head doesn't really move.
Yep.
That creates the rotation, but it's a skill that I don't really understand because I've never really been taught that way, but you see some of the best Chinese divers doing it. Oh! I want to give a 10 for that. I want to give a 10 for that. I want to give a 10 for that.
That entry was absolutely...
Yes, there we go.
We see some 10s.
They're the first 10s of the weekend now.
That's what we want to see, yeah.
Come
First
on.
10s of the weekend.
Lovely, well deserved as well.
Don't count, unfortunately. But we see the 10s, that's what we want to see.
No, you'll be able to see the difference in the technique as I was talking. Look at his arm swing. His arms come all the way through past his ears. And you need that on pike. You definitely need that on pike. But what a beautiful entry. Wow. Well done.
Even better than this morning. Right. Well, we need to compose ourselves. Matthew definitely needs to compose himself for his dive.
Absolutely. Back 2.5 somersaults with 2.5 twists.
Well done, Matthew.
Yeah, well done. I thought that he actually leant a little bit too far back there on the takeoff, but he actually managed to help it pick up really, really well, and he got a decent hold on the entry.
Yeah, great jump out of the board. Neating off the re-pike, as you see when he finishes his twist, just a little bit scrappy in that pike shape.
Yeah, it looked like he didn't quite get his hands on the end either, which is probably a reason for the little bit of splash that was thrown up. But still a great effort and a good second round dive for Matt.
Now Ben, reverse 3.5 somersaults in the tuck position.
Wait.
Great dive as well from Ben. Yeah. Really good jump out the tower as well. He's improved his strength over the last year or two, making this dive much easier.
Great technique on the start, really good technique on the start. Beautiful form going into the tuck shape and really strong, good sequence on the kick. And one thing about Ben is his leg line is phenomenal. So once he kicks out, lock through the water, looks beautiful.
Yeah, really talented as a junior. Now in the senior events, of course, showing off the progression he's made over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and he's got the DD to match as well. He's almost maxed out every single dive in terms of the difficulty. So at such a young age, he's got plenty of time to work on just improving the execution of all of those dives.
Robbie with a back arm stand 1.5 twist, so slightly low on the degree of difficulty at 3.2, but very good on the execution again from Robbie. I'm always so impressed by his competitive nature. Yeah,
just lost his tension a tiny little bit as he came round on the end there. maybe felt a little bit too fast and just drifted over, and needs to keep that chin up, stretch his hands a touch more forwards. But as I say, these are very, very fine details, and everything happens so quickly up there. So
yeah,
great job from Robbie.
He was the bronze medalist back in the winter at these nationals up in Edinburgh. Now Matty, time to make up some ground. That's more like it from Matty. Much better than this morning.
Much better than this morning from Matty. That's where he needs that dive. Shame about first round, but you know, it doesn't matter now. Just got to try and do the rest of the dives as well as possible, and that's a great way to kick off the rest of his competition.
Yeah, we saw with the girls in the 3 metre that it's not over. Yasmin had a little bit of a drop in the middle, but recovered really well on the last couple of dives and ended up taking the British title. So Matty needs to have the same attitude.
It's not over till the fat lady sings, as they say. Or it's not over till it's over.
Now Kyle really was on form this morning, as he has been in training too, from what I've seen from him. Reverse 3.5 here.
I just whispered, what a start. It was so high. So high.
Too high. Too high. Well, another somersault, maybe.
Might as well, really.
Oh, that's a shame. Real shame from Kyle. But that is exactly what we're talking about with the other people can drop.
Double at board level. It's unlucky for Kyle. It's unlucky. It's just so easy for him. Maybe even should try pike. I don't know. I don't know. He could.
Now Noah, another dive that's very easy for someone. Spoke this morning about potentially adding another somersault to this dive at some point, but he really is on form.
I tell you what's really impressed me with Noah at the moment is even when it looks like he's going over, he's getting really, really good at just timing his save, timing his underwater work and keeping the splash down. No matter what angle he lands at, he's really good at getting that now. It's so impressive, and that just adds to the points that he can get every single round.
Yeah, so that puts him with quite a significant lead after 2 dives, 22 points on Ricardo, who we did see get the 10s on his reverse 2.5 somersaults pike. Now, Archie, this was his best dive this morning, number 2.5 somersaults pike.
Oh, such a shame. That was a much better start. It looked like he had a little bit more time. Just didn't quite get his arms out quick enough.
Yeah, great pike shape, chest completely flat on his legs, and bang upright really, just didn't quite get the rip entry through the water. But a lot to like about that from Archie. Look at that pike shape, completely flat.
Yeah, just needs to reach a little bit more, squeeze his ears. His arms are a little bit in front of his ears on that lineup, which is why it threw up quite a lot of splash, unfortunately, for Archie. But again, for him, no pressure, all about the experience.
Mentioned this morning that divers have to do... Oh, let's get past that one first. Angus with his arm stand dive. Divers have to do 6 dives in 6 different directions. That's forward, back, reverse, inward, twist and arm stand. So don't get the option to do one of their choice like the boys do on the 3 metre. Angus's arm stand dives up to the slightly easier version of the forward double somersault pike. Whereas we see the back double somersault pike from Nicolaus now, which is 2.8.
Yeah, just almost a little bit too easy again for him there. Falling away from the platform and just not quite able to control that lineup in the same way that he was able to control his back 2.5 pike.
Yeah, the lean on the handstand makes it quite hard to stop that rotation. Maybe he just needs to pop his legs up a little bit earlier, just so he gets a little bit more balance, and then it'll just help him control that finish.
I imagine he's working on trying to add an extra somersault maybe in the tuck position
to
increase his degree of difficulty.
Athanasios with forward arm stand double somersaults again, but this time with an added twist, so we up the degree of difficulty again to 3.1, but very nice dive from him.
Yeah, much better than he achieved this morning. Over almost 20 points improvement there.
Yeah, 72.85 points from him there, so good dive. I think he'll be very happy with that one.
Yeah, it's a really tough dive to control that. You have to get the flick away, but then you have to try and stop the rotation as quickly as possible after the twist to see the water and stretch forward for it. So it's done a great job to control that.
Now Romano. His forward direction, forward 3.5 somersaults pipe. We're going to see this with an extra somersault from some of our other boys later on in the competition. 3.0 for the 3.5 pike, 3.7 for the 4.5. So you can see that difference in difficulty. Execution marks mean they are ever as important when the degree of difficulty is slightly lower.
Yeah, it was a good jump there from Romano, but not quite the strong, long throw that he needed to maintain the rotation speed. So it just started to stall a touch towards the end of the dive. Ended up dropping a little bit short. But great power, good pike shape. Just needs that little bit extra on the end. Solid dive from Romano.
Now Ricardo, can he follow up the last round? 2 10s from our judges. It's very nice. It's not going to get 10s, but it's another nice dive from Ricardo. He has been impressive. I'm sure he's going to be pushing the Italian boys on the 10 metre to go to those events that we've spoken about, such as the World Championships and the European Games.
Absolutely, he's put forward a great dive there. Just drifting a touch over on the end, but, you know, really solid. It's all about minimising that angle of entry and just keeping that splash down. He's done a great job of that on that dive. Obviously, slightly lower degree of difficulty than what we see from these last 5 or 6 boys in terms of the forward 4.5, but maybe something that he will be working on in the future.
So Matthew's first round dive left him with a little bit of work to do. His last round dive was much more steady. Now onto the arm stand back triple somersault. We've seen this from Matty Lee, his training teammate in Dive London.
Wait.
Very nice from Matthew.
Great dive from Matthew, very, very good.
Probably the best grip entry I've seen from him so far today. Really good.
Definitely, he should be really happy with that. And Matthew's good at spinning and spotting each somersault and looking for the water. And you can probably see it in the slow motion, a little bit of movement in his shape, but he's looking for the water each somersault and then reaching back for the end.
Yeah, good score from him. 75.9 points, so 205 over the 3 dives, puts him on average to get over that 400 mark. Now Ben in with 3.5. Got a feeling we're going to see a good one here.
I think so too. Oh, it was so close.
I thought even to the very end, I thought it was going to be another one that's going to get close to those 10s. I mean, we're making sighing noises like it's a bad dive. It's still 8s, but we thought we were going to see even higher.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he just maybe separated his arms a little bit early on the water.
He just lost his chest tension a little bit.
Just didn't quite get the full grab all the way through the water and just broke a touch early as he went through. So just unfortunately missed the entry, but again, the form was great. So that's why we saw some 8s from the judges and the great dive from Ben. Moving on to Robbie and his back 3.5 somersaults tuck.
Oh, yeah, Robbie got a great score out in America and international recently, 467, which is a really good score for him.
Yeah, again, I mentioned it in the morning about just wanting to see Robbie try and keep his shoulders a little bit more still on his takeoff, and this is the reason why he's had a little bit of swing back, a little bit too much. Doesn't need that because it pulls him over a touch, and he can do it really, really well, but I think Sol just needs to work on that technique a little bit more, and he'll be more consistent on that dive.
Now Matty, much better last round dive. Again, very, very nice from Matty. Slightly short of vertical, still goes through like a bullet, keeping that water splash to a minimal.
Yeah, that's all about just maximum tension as soon as you grab your hands, no matter what angle you're at. If you squeeze as hard as you can, you'll still be able to hold the water down, and the judges will go with you, although we're just waiting for the scores to come up from the judges. Slight delay here as we get the manual score.
It's like one of the J-pads has not quite inputted that score properly, so...
Yeah, but Matty still comes away with 8s
Yeah,
and then
you
8.5 to carry.
See that 9 in there as well. Judge 6 liked that one.
Yeah, even though it landed a touch short, as I say, good tension through the water no matter what angle you land at, and the judges will go with you. Move on to Kyle with the exact same dive, the with 3.5 somersaults with tuck. Going to bounce back from his previous round's slight mistake.
Oh, 10. Give it, do it, give it.
I'll go with it. I'd go with that.
It's
That's
definitely
a great dive.
9s plus for me.
Yeah,
Yes.
we got 1 10 in there. Oh, 2 10s in there. Still none to carry, unfortunately, but yeah. Way to bounce back from the previous round.
9.5 to carry. 91 points on that one for Kyle. Beautiful dive.
As I said this morning, wizard.
Look at this entry. Disappears. Now Noah flying after the first 2 rounds. Big one here, back 3.5, 3.6. Oh no.
Yeah, he did the same thing in the prelim, actually, in terms of the start. The start technique was still good. The start technique was really good. He jumped straight up, great balance. Just released his legs a little bit early on the come out, unfortunately.
I think there goes that 500 score that I was hoping for, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately so.
That brings us to the midway point of the competition.
Yeah, I wonder how that felt for him, because it didn't seem like there was any need for him to panic and come out like that, because the start was good. I don't know if he felt slow or a difference in movement, but there we go.
What it does mean is that it's very, very close at the top. Just 7 points between, 8 points between first and fourth.
Absolutely.
And what you said originally when Matty dropped his first dive is, got to keep going, because you never know what's going to happen with the rest of your competitors. A little bit similar to the women's prelim at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. You saw the same thing with the women.
In prelim, sorry, women's final.
Yeah, some of the divers just making a small mistake in one round, and you know, gives others a chance to catch up. But you've just got to maintain your focus, keep on going through your process, and try and execute each dive as well as possible.
Now Archie, come on then, back 2.5 somersaults pike. Similar to the reverse again, just needed to hold onto that shape a little bit longer, kick those feet up slightly higher.
Yeah, again, the technical movements are pretty solid, actually. I'm just guessing that he doesn't actually spot or see much when he spins around. Let's see it in the slow motion replay. He gets into a great pipe shape, but I don't think he's looking as he's spinning, and then he's just guessing on the come out. And obviously at this point, not quite guessing accurately. He doesn't have the bank of information to be able to guess like that. So trying to learn how to spot maybe will help him out.
Now Angus, same dive. Similar result.
Very similar mistake, and you could possibly say the same thing about Angus. Maybe not quite spotting those somersaults as accurately as he could do, and just releasing as a guess. Normally Angus is very accurate in his back and reverse ends, but yeah, this time unfortunately just letting him down a little bit.
Yeah, out very early on that, kicked his feet down at the water. Just slightly too early. Now Nikolaus, reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck. Very nice from him.
Yeah, as we spoke earlier about the technique in terms of holding that dish shape, looking at your toes. Obviously on this dive in particular, you can do that for a really, really long time, but that gives you the awareness of where you are in the air and gives you a better chance of getting a good entry on the end.
Yeah, just left his hips slightly out on the end, which is why we see that slight bit of splash thrown up. Very heavily critical that there. Was a nice dive overall.
Oh.
Athanasios with another back 2.5 somersaults pike. This time we're seeing a little bit the opposite, over rotation there from Athanasios. Much cleaner through the entry, so we're going to see better scores.
Yeah, you can see his awareness was maybe slightly better there. As he pressed out, he had a real strong look over his toes before trying to line up, but maybe just a little bit of tension, not quite fully extending all the way through before moving his arms. Led to him landing the touch short.
Now Romano, inward 3.5 somersaults for him, 3.2. Second biggest degree of difficulty at diving his list. He does the back 3.5 in the later rounds. I think in the next round. Well done, Romano. He's very clever. He's such a clever diver. When he comes out of his shapes, he just manages to squeeze his body, get that tension so he can keep all the water down.
Yeah, he's got a real good, strong jump on him, so he just needs to work on trying to find how he can start to increase the speed of his somersault and then bring the pike out, make it a little bit easier to line up on that dive. But, you know, coming away with 73 points on that dive, an improvement on what he did this morning. This morning he made a small mistake for 43 points, so it's a significant improvement, about 30 points there for Romano, so well done.
Yeah, excellent from him. Ricardo has been very impressive throughout the day so far, both in the prelim and in the final. And that's a shame from him. Just very early on the pike out, divers can opt to punch straight from the tuck shape to a straight line like we saw from Romano previously. Ricardo's opted to come out through a pike shape, so where you see him straighten his legs out, go to a T, but just done that slightly too early.
Yeah, in the replay, you see his toes not quite pointing in the shape, and that shows to me that he's probably not fully extended through his toes on the takeoff, and that'll affect the speed of the somersault. So he's just got to work on that full extension all the way out before going into a tuck shape. That'll help the turnover, the speed, and probably the awareness coming into the end of the dive, in turn the entry.
Now Matthew, inward 3.5 for him again. Seen a few of these now in a row.
Wow.
Very nice from Matthew,
Yeah.
stepping up his game now. Great entry through the water.
Great hands there from Matthew, and you can see the difference in the start compared to Ricardo. The extension all the way through his knees and toes before he really quickly snaps into this shape.
Yeah.
Just accelerates that somersault speed, so he's finishing that dive so much higher. He's got time to look for the water before grabbing his hands.
Yeah, I really like that dive. Not much I would have taken away from it. Now, Ben, you mentioned before that really increased his degree of difficulty. This is one that has changed in the last couple of years. Used to do it tuck, now doing it pike.
Oh, great job, Ben. Well done.
Yep, great job, Ben. Big improvement from this morning too.
Yeah, he really cranks in that wind with his arms, almost like doing a double arm swing into his pike shape, and that helps carry the momentum of the somersault speed, means he can get into a really tight pike shape and gives him time on the bottom to press all the way out and then reach back with his arms. Great job there from Ben. Let's have a look at that slow motion replay. Look at those arms going through into basically a double arm swing into that pike shape, spotting each somersault. You can see his head moving before he presses out. That's why he can come out in a consistent place each time. He knows exactly where he is. Imagine knowing how to spot.
So Robbie with the first of the 4.5s that we'll see today. 3.7 degree of difficulty.
Oh,
Robbie Lee.
Wow.
Love that from Robbie. Excellent forward 4.5. Huge score.
99.9 coming in from Robbie. Huge.
Nearly over the 100 mark.
Look at the jump that he gets from the boards when he comes into the end, pings straight up into that tuck shape.
Yes, Robbie.
So much time
Excellent
to find his
dive.
end. Good hands, great dive. Pressure on.
Yeah, Matty Lee. Slightly further down the rankings than we would have expected prior to the competition. Only halfway through though. Big one here, back 3.5, some sort of pike.
Ooh.
Good. Not as good as this morning, but good.
No, this morning he had an awesome one for 93 points, so just a touchdown, really not much, but that's a great dive. He's really starting to find some consistency on that back 3.5 pike, which is great to see.
Yeah, I think if his morning's dive would have been done in a final, we would have seen closer to the 100 mark.
I think
Sometimes judges do loosen up their scores, as we've seen here. We've seen a few 10s given out. Now Kyle, back and reverse are the ones that more of a weakness for him. His awareness isn't quite as good on these dives as they are on the front and inward spinning dives.
Been working hard on the consistency of his come outs. So let's see what he can do here. Almost.
Yeah, I think he came out in the perfect place, to be honest. Just over-pulled on that entry. Let his back arch a little bit too much and just pulled it over from vertical. So, I mean, I'm being heavily critical here. 7.5, of course, are still very, very good scores, but
Yeah.
We just know what the boys are capable of.
As he releases his touch shape, just like he's not 100% sure and almost wants to rush back for the water when he could have just maintained that line all the way through. But a solid dive there from Kyle. Keeps him up in the mix.
So last up in the 4th round is Noah. Amazing first 2 rounds. Not so good in the 3rd. 4th round dive is a big one. 3.6 degree of difficulty, back arm stand, double somersault with 2.5 twists. Good recovery there from Noah.
Yeah, really strong recovery, really fast twists.
Excellent leg form in that twisting shape as well. Don't see any deviation. His feet stay perfectly together throughout the whole dive.
Absolutely glued together. Maybe that's the trick. Maybe he's using some kind of glue.
You tried that with a band, didn't you, at one point?
I tried to use a band just to try and feel the movement so I could try and counter it, but that also didn't work. So, yeah, on to the next strategy. But anyway, less about me. Good dive from Noah. Moving on to round number 5. Archie with his arm stand dive. So it's the same as what Noah just did, just with a twist less.
Yeah, joint highest degree of difficulty for him with his first round dive, 3.2. Taking his time to get up to that handstand balance.
Yeah, beautiful control. Shows real strength. Yeah, and there goes again, similar, I think I mentioned it in the mornings, just with the chin down for me a little bit too much. I'd want that chin up a little bit more as he's popping off the board, and that'll help his whole body extend and maintain the speed of the somersault.
Yeah, he looks like he's just a little bit unsure on those lineups sometimes, which for a high diver when he's landing feet first maybe is something that does work more on the feet first entries.
Yeah, that's it. Maybe he's just better at landing on his feet than he's at landing on his head.
Now Angus with the reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck. This is a dive that we have seen him do very well in the past.
Just
yes,
like that.
Very good from him.
And he can do that better, I know, but that was spot on. That was very, very good. Just a little bit more on the entry. But the judges like that, and he should be pretty happy with that one.
Yeah, good work from him. And Nikolaus, inward 3.5 now for him. Sneaky, sneaky.
Good hands, much improved on this morning where he only scored 43 points. That'll get significantly more.
Yeah, good work from him. Straight
improvement.
Mention that punch out, goes straight from his tuck shape into a straight line, and then great work on the water.
It's just a little bit down that throw, so I think it makes it look a little bit tighter than it maybe is, which, you know, for the judges might make them feel a little bit uncomfortable, but none of them picks up on it on this particular occasion.
Yeah, the judges are supposed to change their marks if they deem the dive to be dangerous. That's a
hard one,
that's a mouthful.
And now we see the opposite from
Athanasios.
I keep forgetting how to say it.
It is.
Athanasios.
I think I butchered it for the first time I said it.
Yeah, there we see the opposite. He just went a little bit too far back, and the margins we're talking about are a matter of centimetres, really. But by pushing it that little bit too far back, it just left it short of vertical because he was just dropping that touch too quickly on the end. So, unfortunate for Athanasios. I'll try and remember that for next time.
Now Romano, really good work on this morning. Helped him secure his place in this afternoon's final. His highest degree of difficulty dive, 3.3 for the back, 3.5 some sort of stuff. Real shame there.
Shame. The first one of his back and reverse that he's made a slight mistake on, because he did this really well this morning. And you can see the same technique on the takeoff with the arms coming through and not quite reaching his ears, using a bit more of the body to create the rotation. So maybe a little bit more work to do for him to get that technique right. Have a little watch of some of the best Chinese divers, and that's where you can pick it up from, because they are pretty proficient at that kind of movement.
Now Riccardo, one of our Italian guests. Great to have the Italians over at the British Nationals joining us. Really does bolster the competition, and also gives us a great idea of the international competitors that we'll be competing against at events later on in the calendar.
Absolutely, at both junior and senior level. And actually for the juniors that are competing here, the British juniors, it's good to compete against some of the international seniors because it shows them what, you know, the big wide world is like.
Yeah, it is difficult sometimes when you go to competitions and there's some high-level divers there. It can be quite intimidating. So to get used to it as early as you possibly can is very important. Now Matthew Dixon made a great recovery after his first round drop. Last few dives have been very good, so he's pulled himself back up to 6th.
Big dive for Matthew, back 3.5 somersaults piped, 3.6.
Making it so easily now.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest I've seen him make it, actually really strong with the jump, and I just didn't quite make the right adjustment for that start to be able to press out and stop the rotation before reaching back for the end.
Yeah, just the back and reverse slightly letting him down so far today. In the final, at least.
Yeah, Matthew's had a really big program this weekend, so...
Yeah, great to see him doing the 3 metre as well. Another diver to add to the ever-growing list of potential divers that we could see at the international events.
Yeah, that's it, and actually performing really, really well down there, so... Maybe he'll have a decision to make of which event he wants to focus on in the coming years.
Great back twisting dive there from Ben. Only slight criticism is just those feet again. Just when he repikes, finishes his twist, just lets those feet come apart. But again, great water work. Yeah. Looking much stronger as well, Ben.
Exactly what I was going to pick on. And you see judge number 2 giving it a 6, and that's probably mainly because you can see that foot split, and it's quite obvious there as you go into the repike. It's hard to get them back together as you're trying to repike at the same time. So, yeah, something, as we mentioned, that he needs to just continue working on and try and improve as much as possible going forward.
So our current leader with his massive 99-point forward 4.5. Oh, can't quite follow it up with the reverse 3.5 though, unfortunately.
I was hoping for more there. I really was. I thought that was going to be going down, but again, I mentioned it before, the slight body movement on that takeoff just pushed those knees a little bit forward, and so sometimes doesn't quite get the full extension all the way up as he needs on this start to make that dive comfortably. Unfortunately, just dropping short there. We've seen him do that dive for 9.5, 10 maybe in the past many times, so we know what he's capable of, just not quite on this occasion.
He put the pressure on Matty in the last round. Now may have the opposite effect. See how Matty deals with it. Very well. Really good dive there from Matty.
Yeah, one of his favourite dives, I think, there. Really strong start, good kick, just a little bit pulled with the chest on the end, drifting over past vertical.
Yeah, just behind Ben. Ben's currently out in the lead, 388.7 points, but Noah and Kyle will definitely have something to say about that, especially with this big one. Old 4.5 somersaults from Kyle. Yeah. Mentioned the highest degree of difficulty dive in the competition. Just going through it in his mind there, you may have seen him moving his hands.
So just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, out, rip, 10. That's what we want. Oh, he had the 1, 2, 3, 4 out, slightly over, maybe not quite the 10, but what a great dive from Kyle there. That'll carry him.
Yeah, I think you're right. He definitely got the 1, 2, 3, 4 out rip.
99.9 matches Robbie. Same score.
Takes him into the lead as well.
Not quite able to break that 100-point barrier, but great dive there from Kyle. Making up from his slight mistakes on the back and reverse with some really good quality dives on his front and inward skills. Great. Very good.
Yep, it is close around the top. Noah Williams with his reverse 3.5 somersaults, 3.4, so a bit lower down for him.
Oh, yeah,
very good though.
Noah's a little bit down on degree of difficulty for this round, but he's got his forward 4.5 coming up in the last round, so he's done a real good job to stay in touch with a great dive here. 86 points.
Yeah, so going into the last round, he is just 11.85 points behind his teammate Kyle, but as you mentioned, does have a degree of difficulty advantage very slightly with a 3.7. Ben Cutmore, another 11 points behind him. Oh, I say that, sorry, he's 12 points behind. He's just 1 point behind Noah.
Oh, wow.
Reading the scoreboard incorrectly. Now Archie, forward 3.5. Great experience for him being in this event. Last minute call up after the pull out. So never easy to come into an event with very little preparation or training, especially getting thrown in 5 minutes before.
Exactly, but for Archie in his own development, that is a 20-point improvement on what he did this morning in the prelim, so that's the most important thing, just making progress each and every day, each and every dive, trying to get that a little bit better, and he's done a good job there. You can see a bit of taping on his knees, so maybe he's a little bit sore, probably affecting that takeoff a little bit. But
yeah, well done to Archie.
Oh.
Now
for me, that was too tight. That was way too tight.
Yeah,
and
you can see a few of the judges raising their arms. That means they have deemed it dangerous.
Yeah.
So we're going to see a capped scores from them.
Only one of the judges there. We see judge number 3 giving it a 5, not deeming that dive too close. And you can see here on the replay, yeah, that's definitely too tight for me. Way too close over the board. That's dangerous. We don't want to see a dive any closer than that, particularly on the inward spinning dives, because touching your head on that is not great.
Yeah, so the referee can make the decision to say this dive is dangerous and means the mark gets capped at 2. So unfortunate for Angus, but I think it is important for the sport because some divers were running the risk at coming close and hitting the board, and we don't want to see that. If you collide with that platform, it can't only be painful, it could also potentially be life-ending. So it is very important that we make sure the safety of the divers is paramount.
And a great way to do that is just by discouraging it, by not awarding scores for dangerous diving. So yeah, unfortunately there for Angus, but that's something that he needs to learn going forward to try and work on his balance, to work on his distance. Back underway though with Nicholas on his back, 1.5 somersault, back 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twist, sorry.
Yeah, good event for him, over 400 points as well, so I think he'll be pretty happy with that list of dives, some really good stuff in there.
It's a huge improvement on what he did this morning, I mean, getting 338 points earlier, so great progress and great finish there from Athanasios.
Yep, really good dive from him to finish up 2. Second one of these that we will see in this last round. 72 points from him, good scores. Same can be said to the Greek team. Great to have them here at the British Nationals.
Yeah, there's definitely been some great performances from the guests, so I hope their trip to Sheffield has been enjoyable and they can carry a lot of confidence through for those that are going to the World Championships or the European Games and take a lot forward from this experience. Well, you can say some of the best divers in the world in Great Britain for sure.
Absolutely. Romano's going to do exactly the same dive. See how he compares to the 72-point dive we've just seen. We mentioned this morning about we really like his takeoff. He's very steep, looks controlled in that twisting shape. Just didn't quite get the entry that we know he can do.
Yeah, there's a fine balance between controlled and stuck, and that one was stuck, I would say. He didn't quite drive his legs up out of the platform as quickly as he probably should have done, which meant that it just landed a little bit short in the end. But good solid list from Romano there, finishing on 372 points, which again is an improvement on what he did this morning. So good day for Romano.
Oh, Ricardo can't half rip. We saw him get the 10 on the reverse 2.5, somersaults pike again on the back 3.5, an excellent finish, and another diver over 400 points. Just 400.6 points there from him, so excellent performance from Ricardo.
Yeah, that tuck shape's just a little bit open. It's almost like he's spotting, but his chest is quite far away from his legs. Maybe if he just tries to round that back and he can still spot, but maintain the speed of the somersault, give himself a little bit more time on the way out. But actually, maybe it means he'll be able to do a back 3.5 pike quite soon. So possibly something that he's working on. And now we move on to Matthew Dixon with his last dive, the forward 4.5 somersaults with tuck.
Yeah, his biggest dive, competition's biggest dive. Big run up right at the back of that 10-metre board.
It's almost going to fall down the stairs.
Much better than this morning.
Yeah.
Really good from Matthew.
This morning he made a mistake, dropped it for 38 points, just rushing that line up and landing short. And this was much improved, 77.7 from Matthew Dixon. And so we were talking about earlier, you want the momentum to carry you forward through the run-up, but you want that to transfer into upward momentum to get the somersault speed, and that's exactly what he did. Gave himself time on the come out and a decent entry.
Yeah, well done to Matthew. Ben, exactly the same dive as well. We'll see a few of these coming up. Oh, Ben! Yeah. Excellent diving from Ben today.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best ones I've ever seen from Ben. That's got to be a huge PB for Ben there, 479 points.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Really good diving from him. Increased his DD, but now looking strong on those dives as well. 4.5 there, making it with a very, very slight pike out. Great diving from Ben. Him and his coach look really happy down there, Jane Figueiredo.
From Jane, they've been working together since the start of this season, and yeah, you can clearly see the work starting to bear its fruits.
Robbie with the back 2.5 somersaults, 2.5 twists, so 3.6 there from him.
Amazing hands, landing slightly over past vertical, but yeah, quality hands.
More good stuff from him. Another huge score, 440. So beating his score that got him the bronze medal in the Winter Nationals, but maybe unlikely to get a medal today. We will have to wait and see with our last 3 divers.
Actually 5 points down on what he achieved in the prelim, so quite consistent diving from Robbie across the day.
Yeah, 4.82 won the Nationals for Noah back in the winter. Ben just slightly behind that with a 4.79 score. Matty now. Oh, another one.
Good dive. I thought he looked a little bit slow on that takeoff, actually. Felt like he was a little bit slow coming out of his legs, but super in control of that dive. Just pipped Robbie with 4.54. 9 in there, even though it landed a little bit short, maybe slightly generous. But it's a beautiful dive. Really good finish from Matty.
Yeah, good recovery from Matty, especially after that first round. It's never easy when you first dive in a competition. Puts you right on the back foot. You're always playing catch up, but he's done a great job. He's currently in second. Just 2 divers left to go. Starting with Kyle, who was our leader after the last round. Needs 78 points to go into the lead. Very attainable for him on this dive.
Absolutely.
And that'll definitely do it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be closer to 100 than the 78, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, look at Kyle. He made a big mistake on his reverse 3.5. He made a big mistake on his reverse 3.5. He made a small mistake on his back 3.5, and he's still almost at 500 points. I mean, look at the quality of that performance. Wow. Some huge dives there from Kyle. Was that 3 dives over 90 points? Amazing.
Yep, I think that's going to see him take the title. Noah needs 110 points. Is that possible on this?
It's possible.
Straight 10s?
You can get 111.
Straight 10s on this one.
Get 111. So let's not say anything just yet. You know what? We know what Noah's like. You can do some magical things sometimes. Oh, it's a good effort, though.
It's pretty magical.
I wouldn't say straight 10s, unfortunately, but it's a good effort. Wow, 98 points.
And
Jumps himself up in second.
Ben as well.
Wow.
8 points. I said 500 plus, so we've had a few drops in there as well, and we're still very, very close.
I mean, look at the quality of British diving on platform. Wow, like, it's amazing to watch. It's amazing to watch what these boys are doing, really is.
It's a great competition there. We have all the way down to 8th over 400.
Wow, that's
is
incredible
fantastic.
standard.
Yeah, we've seen, obviously, Noah, Ben and Matty all compete at the World Cup events, not necessarily getting the scores that we've seen today and the scores that they have come to expect from themselves, but great to see them now, hopefully gaining form at the right time.
I can see some reaction there on poolside with Scarlett and Andrea.
Yeah, congratulations to Kyle taking the title. Great last dive from him.
He won in Edinburgh, right?
Kyle won.
Yeah, did he?
No, Noah won.
Noah won.
Noah won. Kyle second.
So
and Robbie third. So
he's made that nice little step up from second to first in the Summer Nationals when it's most important.
Yeah, Kyle also out in America came third in the international. It was there recently with a good score of 481, but he's bettered that today.
This is probably a PB for Kyle as well, actually. I don't think he's
no,
done
he's
over
not
500,
done 500
so
before.
yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, excellent diving overall. So we'll get confirmation of the results. We'll hopefully have them a little bit quicker than we did after the women's. And that little bit of a drama with the deduction of the 2 points from Grace's dive.
Yeah, well, we had no restarts here, so...
Initially thought that Grace had taken the British title, but the scoreboard had gone a little bit wrong. Yasmin, in fact, did take that title. We now see Kyle taking the British title there with a great score of 498.75. Both him and Noah, both so close to that 500 mark today.
Yeah, Noah's so unfortunate in the morning, like, you literally cannot get closer. It's annoying. But, wow, what scores for the top 5. That's amazing.
Again, strength in depth of British diving.
Huge.
Is just fantastic. So there you have your results on the screen for your own eyes. Kyle Cathari, our British champion, closely followed by Noah Williams, and Ben Cutmore brings up the last of our medals. Matty Lee, of course, huge name, Olympic champion, just misses out on the medals. Robbie Lee as well, and Matthew Dixon. Amazing diving, and then our 2 guests as well, spoiling us to get the top 8 all over 400. Then the rest of our scoreboard there, Romano, Wang, 372.45, Athanasios, I've done it now as well, 335.75, Angus with 299.3, and Archie, 244.4. So thank you very much to our divers. Thank you all for joining us. We'll take a short break and we'll be back with the medal ceremonies for both of today's events. We've got our girls ready to get their medals. For a change, it was nice and quick. Normally, the organisers are chasing everyone about, trying to get everyone ready for their medals.
To be fair, normally that's our fault.
That's true.
We're normally a bit hard to handle sometimes, the boys. Yeah, we take a little while to get ready. You know, Jack's always got to do his hair and everything like that. So, yeah, sometimes they're chasing us, but here we have the girls' medal presentation. Grace Reed on the podium with the bronze medal.
Yeah, of course, very experienced diver. It'll be interesting to see how we go with the selections. Of course, the top 2 divers from the country will be taken to the World Championships, but only the top diver actually qualifies automatically. So the second spot will be decided by the selection committee. The British champion in her home pool, taking her second individual title. Yasmin Harper, excellent weekend's work from her.
Yeah, some really good quality diving from Yasmin this week. Under pressure, but didn't let the pressure get to her, just maintained her focus, maintained her quality all the way through, and well, resulted in a hat-trick of gold medals.
Absolutely. Of course, we got Leon down there presenting the medals as well. Multitasking today.
Yeah, he's all over the place, isn't he?
Claire Cryan taking the silver medal in the competition overall. Great diving from her.
Really happy for Claire with this result. She really deserves that one. That's a top quality performance for her. She's been working so hard.
Yeah, getting over 300 as well for Claire. Really good score from her. And our overall winner in the competition. Really good on the 1 meter as well from Amelia. 313.85 points to take the overall gold. The ladies will get their medal ceremony pictures, and then one more ceremony coming up for you with the boys on the 10 meter. And then it's time for us to say goodbye for the weekend.
Yeah, sad times.
Yeah,
sad times. It's been a good weekend of competition, good weekend of diving. What's been your highlight, Jack?
Oh, that men's 3 meter final for me. Obviously,
yeah.
Slightly being my old event,
Yeah.
it was just at the top end of it. It was so hotly competed, similar to that men's 10 meter final,
Yeah.
but I think the consistency was just slightly better in the men's 3 meter final.
Really makes you want to come back, right?
No. Absolutely not. No way I could compete with those boys anymore. No, fantastic to see. Almost harsh on the boys as well. Not just the boys, sorry, the girls and the boys. That the talent is just, well, the talent pool's so wide. It means that there's divers in Britain that are world-class athletes, world-class divers, that if they went to events, they will be challenging for the finals. And unfortunately, they don't even have the opportunity to do that because we've just got such talent, and obviously only 2 divers can go from each country. So
yeah, absolutely. Some of those guys that are finishing 3rd, 4th, 5th, just actually a victim of Britain's success and Britain's quality, and it's tough, but you know, that's the nature of sport, and that's what you got to deal with. And you'll get your day in the sun at some point, and you got to enjoy it while it lasts, because there's always going to be someone chasing at this point.
Yeah, so we've got the men ready now. All done the hair, as you say. Or is that just me? Is that just dig at me?
Just you, mate. I'm joking.
Oh dear me. Well, the hairstyles are, well, I'd say questionable from Kyle and Ben. They won't mind me. They'd say the same about me.
I completely agree. Hey, each their own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now they're standing in the wrong place.
I'm just
they're not
saying
even standing in the right place.
Kyle's dad made that comment to me earlier, so I feel like I'm within my rights.
Absolutely. Oh, there you go. They've got the right place. Been on the podium so many times, they don't even know where to stand. Noah's not even had time to do up his shoelaces. That's how much of a rush they were in. Maybe they got a train to catch back down to London or something. Oh, look at that. Oh, yes, there we go. Some handshake, that. Love that from the boys. Love that.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, obviously, love the camaraderie.
Yeah, exactly. You can see how well they get along. All trained together, all pushing each other. And that's another reason why we're seeing such great scores.
Exactly. Well deserved from these boys. They're doing amazing, amazing work. And no doubt they'll still continue to be pushed by those who are just behind them, not quite on the podium today.
So there's Noah with his silver medal. And the last gold medal of the weekend from Dive London as well. Kyle Kathari.
Back from 2 ruptured Achilles.
Yeah.
2 ruptured Achilles, pretty much back to back.
Yeah,
and
I think he was on the cusp of whether to carry on with the sport.
Absolutely.
And he's chosen to persevere, and it's paid off because he's doing some amazing stuff. And he is now the British diving champion of 2023.
Shows what you can do when you work hard, even with some adversity. Nothing can stop you as long as you keep on pushing. Well done to Cal. Oh dear.
Brilliant. So that concludes the medal ceremonies, and it concludes our coverage of this weekend's events. I hope you've enjoyed the live stream. I hope we've done a good enough job at going through the competitions with you, and I hope you've enjoyed some amazing diving too. So thank you very much for joining us all, and hopefully we will see you back for the next nationals. A lot in between.
A lot in between.
A lot in between, some great competitions to see. Obviously, internationals, we'll see a lot of these divers representing Team GB in the upcoming events. So, lots to come. But from me, thanks to you, Yona. Thanks for joining me today. I've really enjoyed it with you.
Thanks for having me today, Jack. It's always a pleasure. Love it.
Yep, thank you very much, guys. Hope you've enjoyed the live stream. Signing out from me, myself, Jack Haslam, and Yona Night Wisdom.
Enjoy your summer.